Recording.
Okay, this virtual meeting of Monroe Township Board of Education is now called to order. I'd like everyone to rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Michael Lesky.
To the republic,
Join the meeting.
Stands one nation,
and
God,
indivisible, with
liberty and
liberty.
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Gorski, call to order. I'm sorry, the roll call.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Here.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Here.
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
Here.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Here.
Mr. Pelori,
Here.
Mr. Ryback,
Here.
Mrs. Siegel,
Here.
Mr. Tufano, Mr. Tufano, Mr. Rutsky.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Board President, we have a quorum present this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Tufano is not in the meeting at this time, but I'm certain he's trying to join.
Okay, we
When
can
he
move on.
does, I'll make notice of his joining the meeting for the minutes.
Thank you. We can move on with the statement, Mr. Gorski.
Yes, sir. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted April 17th, 2020 at all schools, the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you. Before we move on to approval of minutes of the prior board meeting, just two things I'd like to mention. There are 10,700 confirmed cases of COVID-19 right here in Middlesex County. Unfortunately, there were also 455 deaths. I'm going to ask that everyone please join me in a moment of silence for those who have passed away from this disease. Thank you. Next thing is going to be really for the public session. We're asking for your cooperation as we attempt to conduct a virtual Board of Education meeting. If you could adhere to the following rules, it would be appreciated. 1, during the public forum, we will use the raise my hand feature on the platform to permit you to state your questions or concerns. Once you raise your hand and we are prepared to respond to your question or concern, your microphone will be enabled. You will be limited to 4 minutes with your questions or comments. I will state the individual's name and ask for their address for the record. After we address your concern, please lower your hand so that we may move on to the next community member. To abide by these rules before you out of the meeting. Thank you. Now we can move on to the approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the Public Board of Education minutes of February 19th, 2020?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is anybody opposed?
No.
Abstentions or recusals? Okay, that passes. I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting of
So
February
moved.
2020. Oh, I'm sorry. This.
So moved.
Thank you. Any second?
Was that Mr. Chiarella and Mrs. Arminio?
I think it was Andy. It was me, Mike.
Mr. Pelori. Mr. Pelori first and Mrs. Arminio second the motion.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Was there did anybody oppose?
No.
Okay.
No one opposed.
Abstentions or recusals? Okay, we can move on from that. That passed. All right. Now we have a presentation for our 2020-2021 final budget. Mr. Gorski.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, Mrs. Allen and I have discussed the budget, and there are no changes in the final budget adoption from the budget that was presented and approved by the board at the preliminary budget hearing. We had another presentation of the same budget at the Finance Committee meeting, where the members of the Finance Committee meeting recommended the budget to be in its same format presented to the Board of Education for final adoption. We have prepared a very comprehensive budget that maintains all current programs and services with a minimal tax consequence to the community. There are some concerns at present about state aid funding that was awarded and is being adopted by the board in the resolution, the 2021 budget, as well as tax collections on the municipal government side and pending legislation which could affect the school district with reduced tax payments if those tax collections don't materialize. We are going to maintain course with this budget until such time as we are notified otherwise. That is a consistent message coming from the County Department of Education. So at this time, I would like to read a resolution to adopt the 2020-2021 final budget. Pursuant to the recommendation of the board's Finance Committee, I hereby recommend to the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education the approval and adoption of the 2020-21 final budget as follows. Resolved by the Monroe Township Board of Education that the 2021 general fund budget be adopted in the amount of $124,959,075 and the general fund local tax levy in the amount of $108,062,274 and the special revenue fund in the amount of $1,228,254 and a debt service budget in the amount of $10,706,738 and a debt service local tax levy in the amount of $10,494,073, whereby the 2021 budget totals $136,894,067. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education has been notified of state aid amounts, and whereas such state aid amounts are, for the 2021 budget, the categorical special education aid is $4,075,644. The 2021 categorical security aid is $103,764. And the 2021 categorical transportation aid is $2,753,019. And the 2021 debt service aid is $212,665. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education has estimated a state aid amount pursuant to application for the 2021 extraordinary aid award is estimated at $350,674. And whereas Board Policy 6471 and NJAC 6A:23A-7.3 provides that the Board of Education shall establish in the annual school budget a maximum travel expenditure amount that may be allotted for travel and expense reimbursement for the 2021 school year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Monroe Township Board of Education hereby establishes the school district travel maximum for the 2021 school year at the tentative sum of $158,422. And be it further resolved that the school business administrator shall track and record these costs to ensure the maximum amount is not exceeded. And be it further resolved that as recommended by the board's budget philosophy resolution, that the board shall transfer $600,000 of retained earnings from the proprietary Falcon Care Fund as a revenue source in the 2021 general fund budget. And be it further resolved that the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education authorize and approve a withdrawal from the capital reserve account in the amount of $180,000 to fund 12 construction services, account 12-000-400-450 for the emergent renovation of Oak Tree Elementary School's Media Center to create 2 additional instructional classrooms, which project is included in the district's long-range facility plan and has been assigned an approved project number of 3290-060-20-1000. And the second project for lead paint remediation at Barclay Brook Elementary School, for which an amendment to the district's long-range facility plan has been submitted and a project number has been applied for. And whereas due to the consistent student enrollment growth, facility needs, and other priorities set forth in the board's budget philosophy resolution, the board is budgeting to maximum spending authority, including the full remaining previous year's unused spending authority of $1,458,098. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the superintendent of schools and the business administrator board secretary file all the required documents with the executive county superintendent of schools.
So moved.
I need a first and a second.
Second.
I think Ken, is that right? Did you move that, Ken?
Yes.
Okay,
Seconded by Mr. Mayo.
Yes.
okay.
Okay, now open it up for board discussion.
Well, yes, I just want to make an ask. What I'm going to do is I'll open it, of course, to board discussion, and then I'm going to ask for the public, anybody in the public that has any questions to come up and speak. They have the same 4 minutes, as I mentioned earlier, and then we'll vote. All right, any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Pelori?
Yeah, Mike, I think the uncertainty in both in terms of the amount of state aid we get, also the legislation that's ongoing right now, it went through the Assembly, it's going to the Senate. There is an uncertainty in terms of the time frame that we may be getting the local aid, so to speak, the municipal aid. Are we making any contingency plans to make sure that the school board the school district is not going to be impacted negatively in terms of being preparedness? And I'm not getting the right words here, but basically in a worst case scenario of reduced income, are we making provisions to make sure that we're not going to be seriously impacted with the programs we have in place?
Mr. Radek?
Yes.
Yes, in conjunction with my conversation with Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, and Laura Allen, we are proceeding as planned with the budget. We are implementing the budget as approved tonight, but we are ready for any contingency of cuts that may come. It is impossible at this time to estimate the severity of what those state aid cuts may be, or what the reduction or deferral of the tax payment may be, which is the less likely of the two. But certainly a reduction of state aid would harm the district, and it would require an immediate administrative response by recommending and going through a list of all non-mandated programs and services, then to immediately make a recommended list to the Finance Committee, and then to the full board. We would then have to modify the budget accordingly with whatever cut is to come. We are ready. And I'm confident that if that circumstance should come, we will fare okay through it.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Rybeck?
Ms. Arminio? Sure, go ahead.
Please. In the resolution, Mr. Gorski spoke of the maximum spending authority. So it seems that we have reached our limit in this budget, and sort of what Mr. Pelari is concerned about. I think we all are. But I'd like to more explanation of maximum spending authority, because it seems like there's not any wiggle room in this budget when we are already forecasting no wiggle room in the 2021, 2022 budget. So could Mr. Gorski speak to that, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Gorski?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Arminio. In the 2021 budget, we are using $1,458,098 of unused spending authority, which is also known as banked cap. That is being applied in full to balance this year's budget for 2021. There is no more banked cap or unused spending authority, to use the technical term, available for next year. So that is going to present a hardship next year, because we are going to have much less wiggle room with banked cap to utilize.
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Is that Mr. Tufano?
Yeah, somebody told me I'm marked absent. I don't know why.
Well, I'm looking at you.
Okay, good.
Let it be noted in the minutes that Mr. Tufano is in the meeting, and we have a full board membership.
Do you have a question for this, Mr. Tufano, on the budget?
I do not, no.
Anyone, any other member of the board?
May I have a follow-up, Mr. Rybeck? Okay, so in this year's budget, lest we blame everything on COVID-19, we were going to have to go to our maximum spending authority this year before COVID-19. Is that correct, Mr. Gorski?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so again, another cautionary situation, and I think I mentioned it 2 months ago. Sadly, I'm not happy when, when these future things happen. I mentioned it that we had one of the best economies in the last 10, 15 years, and we were still going to our maximum authority because we were running out of funds. And that's really primarily due to the enrollment. I see that our enrollment has now exceeded 7,000 students. So we need to be clear with the public that it really, we have been impacted severely in one of the best economies we've had. And now this COVID-19 is really going, maybe a game changer as well.
Mr. Gorski, do you want to comment on that, or?
Yes, I agree with Mrs. Arminio. Her point that we're using all bank cap this year to balance the budget is accurate. If we have any cuts coming in terms of state aid to the 2021 budget or a delay or deferral of tax payments, it would require cuts to existing programs and services, which are going to be painful. Further, the outlook for next year is going to be very challenging because we have depleting surplus, we have no bank cap available, and we have the pressure of continued student enrollment growth, special education costs, and facility needs that are challenging to meet with those constricted revenue sources.
Thank you.
Any other board member?
I have.
Yes, Mr. Chiarella?
Yes. So, Mr. Gorski, I just have a quick question. I know I bring this up all the time, but on the reserve fund, what do you foresee us having to do with these challenging circumstances in order to reinvigorate?
Participant has left the meeting.
What happened? Somebody left. And I just want to quickly, just for everyone's edification, just explain that fund, that strategic reserve fund, or that reserve fund, has done a lot for us in the past. For instance, we had asbestos abatement at Applegarth, and we used that fund. Roofing repair projects and things like that. A lot of facility repair needs that have come to us, through emergencies. We've been able to meet those obligations and fix those things with that reserve fund. And it scares me that it's dwindling away. And I just wanted to, just pick your brain for a minute on what we can do to help replenish that in the future.
Mr. Rybeck?
Absolutely, go ahead.
It's very challenging right now to be able to put excess surplus into the capital reserve account via board transfer. In this current budget, as Mrs. Arminio stated, we are using all available bank cap to meet the demands of all the appropriations that satisfy all the existing programs and services. To put it simply, the demands on this budget in terms of appropriations are greater than the revenues allowed by the current funding formula ability to meet those appropriations. So we're being squeezed here. In order to replenish that capital reserve account, which I agree with you is an important and it's a prudent fiscal practice to do, we would have to have additional revenue sources not earmarked for the general fund budget, and then allow those to recycle into excess surplus and transfer via board resolution into the capital reserve account. I don't see that happening in the near future unless if programs or services that are currently being enjoyed are somehow removed from the budget, or in the unlikely circumstance we recognize funds from some other area like state aid that we're not anticipating. But again, we're worried about the opposite of that.
No, thank you.
Any other member of the board?
Yeah, Mr. Ryback, it's Kat.
Yes, Ms. Kalapanowicz, sure.
Yeah, Mike, we're probably losing money out of the enterprise funds that we have, ECE and Falcon Care for this semester. So the money that we are usually expect to put into the budget, I'm guessing we won't have as much next year to do that.
Mr. Ryback?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yes, that's correct, Mrs. Kolopanovich. In the 2021 budget, the board is transferring $600,000 from retained earnings from Falcon Care to support the needs of the general fund budget. We have those beautiful proprietary programs, which are a cash cow that keeps generating additional income for the general fund. Unfortunately, the Falcon Care and Early Childhood Enrichment programs are closed at current, and we are refunding the monies to the parents. So that will impair the financial results of those programs. However, there still is enough cash balance in there to satisfy this year's $600,000 transfer. But if we don't reopen those funds soon, like the rest of the economy, we're going to have a problem with a going concern.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to throw something in, Mr. Gorski, and we still have, the schools are open in the sense that custodial work is being done. We're still paying bills, we're still paying salaries, and now we're losing the ECE and Falcon Care money. So it's putting us behind the bigger 8 ball than we already are on. Any Mr. Pelori?
Mike, that was a very gloomy outlook for next year. Hopefully, the state aid would increase somewhat, and I'm looking for something optimistic to come out of it. I read some article that came out today that Senate President is actually recommending some staffing changes so that the people actually can get a little bit more money if they're put on a furlough through the CARE Act and things of that nature. By no means we want to lose any of our staff, but would that be beneficial? Is that something that we should be looking at? I'm not sure if that's a question for this, budget hearing and approval of the budget. But if it's going to help our staff members in the district, that is something that are we looking into it?
I understand your point, and I agree with you. That's a bigger conversation than this budget hearing, and perhaps that's something we should look at the next Finance Committee agenda.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes, Mr. Chiarella.
I just have one further thing. I just think it's with this bill pending, and I understand it passed unanimously in one of the houses that could allow townships to defer payment to the boards of education. Just that it's very important that we're keeping the lines of communication open with the township, which I know we're doing, but we need to implore our lawmakers, our legislators in Trenton, and do what we can if it does fully pass to sway our township representatives to not utilize that, because if we do that, that would be disastrous for our district.
I'm going to address that my portion of the president's report.
Okay.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. Mr. Gorski, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree with that statement. We're 2 independent governments, the municipal and the school board, of course. And I've worked with the municipal government in order to streamline the electronic transfer of monies to the Board of Ed instead of the traditional tax check, which we actually picked up physically and took to the bank before. In doing so, I had a conversation with the officials, George Lang and Alan Weinberg, and they understand the very limited surplus funds available to the Board of Ed by statute and how sensitive this organization would be to any cuts. Even $100,000 would be material and cause pain to this district and be very disrupting. So they have assured me, which I passed on to the board, that they would backstop the Board of Ed by all means necessary. And if tax collections do become impaired, I hope they stand up to their word on that. One thing that was comforting that we took out of Finance Committee is that Monroe Township is fortunate in this regard, in this instance, to have a very large residential rateable base. It's very diverse, and because of that reason, there's safety inherent to it, which will hopefully hold up with the tax collections to the municipality, as opposed to like one industry in town that's closed.
Thank you. Any other board member have a question?
Mike, in terms of timing, I know that there's a proposal out there to delay if the residents so choose not to pay the property taxes right away. Would that impact the cash flow for the district at all?
Yes,
Certainly, it
that's,
certainly could through the municipal tax collections. You know, when the president said that there's a moratorium on mortgage payments for 90 days, I believe, there was no consideration how the banks then would still pay the escrow payments to the municipalities for the tax collections. I'm getting out of my comfort zone talking about this because this is the municipal government's job. But if they have a impairment of those collections, then obviously they won't have it to transfer to the Board of Ed unless if they take it from some other category of revenue or borrow from it with some means.
Okay. Anyone else from the board? Okay, not hearing anyone else from the board with questions or comments, I'll now open it up to public. You have 4 minutes. Please state your name and address. I see.
With us, as Mr. Washington gets the queue ready.
Mr. Ryback, you have Pradeep Malam.
Okay, go ahead, Pradeep.
Pradeep, you're unmuted.
Reggie, is there anything I have to do? I see a symbol with a red dot on it.
Yes, sir. You don't have to do anything, sir. He should be able to speak now.
Okay.
We'll come back to Pradeep and move on to Prakash Parab.
Go ahead, Prakash. Don't hear anything.
I cannot demute.
Prakash, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I hear you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks all the board members for coming in today and all the support you all are doing. Good budget. I know that the CARE Act #2, the bill is going to be some resistance in Washington, but there is a bipartisan support. So you can write a letter to the Senate, Assembly, who are representing in Washington, our legislatures. It will be great, a bipartisan support for CARE Act #2 bill, which is being discussed to give cash to the state. That will help our teachers and police officers and everyone. So that is the first request. Then the second the question I have is, the general public is thinking that now the students are doing virtually they are learning from home. So there should be a cost savings in the school district because the students are at home. So can you please answer that? Because I have another 2 questions. So can you answer in brief, please?
Well, I can start it, Mr. Gorski, if you don't mind. As I said a few minutes ago, our schools, although the students are not in them
Has joined the
physically.
meeting.
Hello? I mean, are you there, Prakash?
Yeah, I'm here. Someone interrupted. Go ahead.
We're still paying salaries. Custodial work is still being done. Bus drivers are still being paid. We, as I said, we don't have the Falcon Care, the HCE money coming in. So there's really no savings that I could see. Mr. Gorski or Dr. Alvick, you want to add to anything that I just?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. The second question is, see here, if you look at the projections of the students for last 7 years, it is, now we are saying 1,000 students, the slide number 26. But if you look at the last 6 years, average, we have added 123 students per year. Now we are saying 259 students per year. That is double the projection. And this counts because 36 students extra we are projecting. If you multiply it by average of 15,000, it comes to about $2 million. I'm okay with that. hope we have less students and we save 2 million, and then that money we can use for repairs of our school system and all. But that is the gap I saw in the budget. If there is any comment on it, projection is 259 students for next year, but the average for last 3 years, 6 years is 123. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Prakash?
No, that is fine. And if there are no comments on that from Mr. Gorski, then I think what I understood is last time the average tax increase is around $83 per year plus $300,000 house. I think that's correct enough. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for participating. Have someone else? Mr. Washington?
Yes, sir, Mr. Ryback. The next person up is Ram Raghunath.
Welcome. Ram? Can't hear anything.
Okay. We're going back to Pradeep Malam.
Okay. Pradeep, go ahead.
Pradeep, you're up.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the public budget hearing. My first comment is on the last BGT meeting output, and I really appreciate Peter putting out those plans in the township website, in the Board of Education website, in the meeting committee notices, with all the handouts that was given in the meeting. Somebody uploaded on the website. I really appreciate it, but it was taken down immediately, and now we can't even refer to that one. Okay, why can't they are available? Once it is public, it's a public information. Why do you need to take it down? Point number one. Point number two, this is the transparency we are looking from day one. I've been asking, why can't we record the committee meetings? Why
Excuse me,
everybody has
Mr. Malam? Mr. Malam, this is the public budget hearing. Comment is strictly limited to the budget, please.
Okay, our budget. Okay, why I'm bringing this up is it directly impacts the BGNT. Whatever the BGNT decision is going to directly impact our budget on 2020 and 21. That's why I'm bringing this up. Without transparency, whatever the budget we are talking here is no use. Okay. Any comment on that one? Who took down and why it was took down?
Dr. Alvik, did you want to comment on that?
I'm not familiar with what he's talking about.
Yeah.
The BGT discussed about 3 options for what should we put it in our next referendum. And
It's going to be discussed in May. So it'll be next month that we'll be talking about that.
Yes, but in BGT meeting, they were discussed and it was uploaded to the committee meeting notices page.
The notes should be posted on the website. I remember reading.
Yeah, but it was taken down again.
Let us look into it. Apologize if that's the case.
That is the case. That's why I'm asking you here.
Okay, well, we'll look into it. Okay. Pradeep, anything else, or should we move on?
Please move on.
Mr. Ryback, next you have Sarah Aziz.
Okay, Sarah, welcome.
Hi, I'm Sarah Aziz, 3 Lancelot Drive. I wanted to thank the administration on the good job they did with the budget and urge the board to pass it. I'm especially glad that this budget includes no cuts to existing educational services and transportation. I am concerned about the various bills that are in the assembly and the impact that they could have on the budget, especially Bill 3902. And I hope that the board passes a resolution against that.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Next person.
Next, Mr. Ryback, you have Christina Akali.
Welcome, Christina.
That is Krishna Tekale.
Krishna. Hi, Krishna.
Hey, Mrs. Ryback. I hope the committee is doing well. I have a question, right? I mean, one of the things that ties into the budget is, the plans for remote learning. We may not be something that we may have had time to look at it, but will the Board of Ed and the administration take a look at, what's going well with the learning, what classes in the high school can be taught online? How can we bundle a combination of both online learning and in-class learning when the classes eventually do open up? And would that cause any savings to the township? And if they do we have a leeway? Can we take a look at this, or what's the next step on it?
I just like to comment one thing here, and I think Dr. Alvik, you can come in after me with this, but I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Alvik, Dr. Lehman, Mr. Gorski, principals, assistant principals, of course, the teachers and paras. They picked up this ball and ran, right across the goalposts for a touchdown. I mean, the things that we're doing, we've been on top of this situation. And I know, Dr. Alvik, I believe you put out a letter, was it last week, to parents talking about all the things we've done and where you're heading. I know the board is updated every week, our confidentials with it. So if you don't mind, I appreciate you adding a little bit to what I just said.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Scully. I think your question refers to when we go back.
Yes, that is.
Okay, that is a huge open-ended question that we have no idea what that's going to look like at this point. But yes, part of our discussions are possible alternate days for students, possible online and in-person classes where if students don't come to school, then they can still do the online version. We have no idea what this is going to look like, and we are in talks with the other county I'm in talks with the other county superintendents, our county superintendent, who then we get information from the New Jersey Department of Education. We are hoping for some guidance on that and how we can implement it and what the best way to do that is. As of right now, we are closed until May 15th, and then it's up to the governor when and if we reopen this year. So we are looking at all possible options for when we go back to school, and hopefully it will be sooner rather than later.
Miss Superintendent, right? Quick question though. I mean, I'm talking not just this year that ends in June. I'm looking at once the school starts sometime in September. Again, the safety of our children, of our educators, and everybody is very important. And I hope that we have the administration and everybody takes the right steps, right? We're looking at once we go back to school after all these things has settled down. We need to. What I was pointing out is we need to have a look at some of the classes being online, where we have no staff or classrooms for the children. We could think about those classrooms going online, and using this year that we spent teaching children online, we could figure out, hey, what classes can we do online? For example, economics, right? Those are mandatory. Do we have is the administration looking at those aspects as well?
Yes, we are looking at those aspects, but we also have to make sure that they are approved by the state. And right now that's not approved by the state. So we have to make sure that we're following those guidelines also.
Got it. Thank you.
I'd like to remind the public that the questions or comments should be pertaining to the budget, because that's the topic we're on right now. Ready for the next person?
Mr. Ryback, we now have Ram Raghunath.
Okay. Welcome, Ram. I don't hear him.
Nor do I. We'll move on to Christy Skirby.
Okay, Ms. Skirby, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me? So my questions is, I know that you had mentioned in the budget, there money from ECE.
You're gonna have to, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to repeat it. There was a lot of interference. I know I couldn't hear what you were saying then.
I understand that you were saying that we're not receiving money right now from the ECE, and that's going to have an impact next year on our finances. However, I know in the I think it was the finance meeting, one of the board members had asked how much money is being, I guess in essence, saved this year, because you have to remember none of our substitutes are being paid. Our fuel cost is not being paid, and I know that number is a large number for the diesel fuel. No toner, no copy paper, no toilet paper, no, there's so many day-to-day costs that we're always told that we don't, when you do the budget, that the public doesn't understand how much actually goes into it. There's all these little things that add up to a large number. What is that large number that we've not incurred, and how will that affect next year's budget?
Mr. Gorski, do you want to handle that?
Thank you, Mr. Ryback. As we presented previously, about 80 to 85% of the school budget is fixed. Currently, all school district salaries are being paid. All school district employees' health benefits are still being paid. All property casualty workers' comp insurance is still being paid.
I understand.
I beg your pardon. Let me just finish.
I don't want you to run through the 4 minutes and tell me my.
Okay.
I'm asking, what is the cost savings that we're seeing right now from those substitutes being paid? The substitutes aren't being paid, correct?
Mr. Ryback?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Substitute pay is not a material contribution to the overall budget. These large fixed costs that I was suspended from going through and there are no material savings being recognized by the closure of the school districts for the last few weeks. In fact, all the schools are now reopened. All of the custodians are readying them for a moment's notice when we hear from the DOE. Every salary is still being paid. All the contracted services for transportation as well as private schools are mandated by the state to be paid. So the majority of all the appropriations are still being paid. There are no material savings unless if you know something that I don't.
Well, I mean, how much have you saved in fuel in almost 2 months?
An immaterial amount to this budget conversation.
It's not immaterial when last year you canceled the high school freshman orientation that was a $7,000 fee, and you said we didn't have the money. I'm just saying, don't say it's not immaterial when you take things away from the children that are only a few $1,000s. Can you tell us what you owe the public, an answer for what money we have not paid out due to this and how that impacts? Don't say it's immaterial, because every dollar is material to the taxpayers of Monroe.
Mr. Ryback, the speaker has 30 seconds left, and I've answered the question.
Okay.
You did not answer it. Of course you didn't answer it.
All right, Mr. Skirby, I think your time's up. You're not going to get any more of an answer, so let's move on.
Mr. Ryback, the next person is Charles DePiro.
Okay, Mr. DePiro, welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, first I want to say thank you, and hopefully everyone's staying safe. And I had a couple questions. What's the impact with this budget on the average home in Monroe? What's the dollar amount?
Of course, you have that answer.
Yes, sir. The average assessed home at approximately $318,000 will get a school tax increase of $83.84, up from the $68.87 increase last year.
Thank you. My concern is, I know we went through the referendum and you guys were trying to get set for another one. Is there any money in this budget for referendum or to do anything with the property on Applegarth, the old golf range?
Mr. Gorski.
Thank you, Mr. Ryback. Yes, there are some appropriations in the budget for not only the election cost, but for anticipated costs for engineering, architectural, there is a reserve of money and appropriations for the referendum itself, yes.
So if this continues the way it's going, will there be summer school?
Dr. Alvick, did you want to answer that?
We don't have summer school. We have extended school year for our special education population. And right now, and that's a requirement that we have to do. I don't know the answer to that question yet.
So at this time, we don't know if there will be the extended summer for special need.
There will be extended school year. I don't know if it will be in person or virtual.
Okay, so what about the question about the buses? Is there any money allocated in this budget for a bus parking lot?
There is not.
So there's nothing.
There is not. And Mr. DePiero, to elaborate on that, the bus parking lot on the parcel across the street from the administrative building, which is deeded over to the board, although the board hasn't accepted the property yet, would be a multi-million-dollar project from the first estimates, and speaking with Mr. Tague, for the deforestation, the grading, the environmental testing, the paving, the lighting, the security system, and so on. So that's a material cost that would probably be part of a bond referendum. It would not be part of a general school budget. It would be too big.
What size area would you need to park buses, Mr. Gorski? What do you think the area that you need right now? How many buses?
It depends really how many buses, and if you wanted to bring the buses back from the individual schools where the overflow is being parked right now, we'd have to study that to come up with an intelligent answer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else from the public?
Mr. Ryback, you have Ajit Sethi.
Okay, welcome, Ajit.
Yes, hi, this is Abhijit. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, very good. Thank you so much, board members, for giving me this opportunity. I have budget-focused questions only. It seems like there's a decision made to purchase a fleet of buses in the coming year. And on top of that, we are also seeing, or I noticed that the federal grants are going down. And to top that, you're also trying to lease more trailers for the high school to the tune of $600,000. So one of the reasons I'm going to put these questions for you is because I'm guessing that you made the decision to buy the fleet because it's cost effective to do that as opposed to contracting. Yes or no?
Mr. Gorski?
Yes, sir. In the current school district budget, there are 6 54-passenger buses with cameras, 2 25-passenger vans with wheelchair lifts and cameras, 1 additional driver. Those are required by law with the exception of the special education vans because of the aging schedule on our current fleet. We are approaching the 15-year mark on those. We have to retire them and we have to lease new vehicles. With the exception of the 2 special education vans, we are pulling those back from a contractor because we had a horrific experience last year, as I mentioned once before at a board meeting. So to better serve our special education population of students, we're buying 2 vans and a driver.
Okay, so you've done the cost analysis, so that is the right decision, I'm guessing then.
Yes, sir.
What about the trailers? You're leasing it as opposed to buying it. So the annual cost is going to be $600,000 and maybe increase year over year. Is that also the decision made based on all factors and scenarios?
Alvick, did you want to address that? I see you were making a gesture.
Yeah, just so you know, there's a higher initial cost for those trailers. After the initial year, it is not $500,000 a year for those trailers. It's about $35,000 a year, Mr. Gorski. Yeah, so it's the first year there's more of a cost because it's the installation and it's connecting it and doing all the things that we need to do to make them safe for students. But after that, it's not $500,000 a year to lease those trailers.
Okay, that's good to know. So I think then we can ignore that small price. See, the reason one of the reasons I'm asking all of this, and we need to figure out a way to save some money, is because it is, and I work with the school districts and Department of Ed across the country, and it is my estimate that if we were to open schools and the schools have to be mandated with health and safety for the kids, states have to plan, or the districts have to plan for at least $100 per student per month towards health and safety measures that includes masks and any sort of other equipment, which means that in the case of Monroe, assuming you have a 7,000 student population plus staff, you're looking just for the students, you're looking at an $8.5 million worth of health and safety budget. Irrespective of whether there's a vaccine or not, you will not have a vaccine in the next several months. So the other ways of doing this is you have to alternate the schedules to suggest that, there is 10 or maybe 12 kids per classroom, and, you have alternate classes running, kids coming only on alternate days. Those are all plans which I'm guessing you will be waiting on the Department of Ed and other county board and all to come back to you. But I'm a bit worried that you don't have money, especially when you're depleting the reserves, to even tackle health and safety of the kids, which is absolutely necessary out of the box. You are liable. You will be opening up for lawsuit. Your liabilities will keep piling on if you're not offering that, and that's a pretty significant budget. So I'll just keep it at that. I don't know if anyone has thought through those details, but I would say that it's almost 10% of your budget that needs to be attributed to health and safety for the entire school.
Time's up, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Okay, Mr. Ryback, we're going to try Ram Raghunath again.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Ryback, can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome, Ram.
Thank you. Three is a charm. Yeah. Again, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and hope everyone is doing well. I had a couple of questions. So it was interesting hearing, I think it was Abhijit's question before, right? So when I hear the budget now, almost like it seems like no change from last month. Almost like, I don't know, just feel like nothing has happened, status quo, right? Is that a right philosophy, right approach? Typically, as Abhijit was saying, for example, if there is 7 million or 8.5 million in safety expenses, shouldn't you be looking at opportunities to reduce so that there's room for that? Like the bus situation that we talked about, more than 800,000 in that slide, right? Slide 17. And can we get a deferment for another year? I know we are reaching the 15-year mark. What are the contingencies that we should be including? That is my first set of questions. Let me ask the questions and I will hand over. Second is to Dr. Advik as well, with the online learning, right? And I think as some people commented, both maybe for the summer, but definitely for the fall, there will be some additional investments necessary to shift to a little bit more of an online learning. Be planning for some contingency, again, some budgets for that. I don't see anything explicit right now, unless they're expecting some state aid or some other government aid to magically address that in the fall. So let me stop there for the time for responses.
Mr. Gorski, did you want to respond to that? I couldn't hear everything he said. It was a little hard for me to.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Big problem.
Now you're okay. You're right now.
Sorry about that. I was speaking and muted. Ram, please correct me if I miss anything, but your question began with, is it prudent budget practice to roll out a final adoption the same as a preliminary in the current environment? The administration talked about this. We had a finance committee meeting, and we're following guidance from the Department of Education as best we can with our other similar school districts around the state. And that is, you don't know when the governor is going to reopen schools. You don't know what the conditions are going to be. You don't know if there's going to be a vaccine, like you said. It appears that we're going to have some kind of personal protective equipment that's going to be worn on one person when we come back, or some kind of segregation of students. But we're just speculating at this time. We have a reservation of money in the budget in emergency fund balance, as well as excess surplus that could be used to help us adapt to whatever Dr. Alvik's vision of reopening is and whatever the state's conditions are. Doctor, did you want to say anything about that too?
No, I think the second part of his question was about the online learning. And again, that's definitely something that we are looking at. But again, it has to be something that the Department of Education would approve for us to do.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's a new world we're in right now. Things are changing all the time. Anyone else?
Mr. Ryback, we have Ravi Sherivu.
Okay. Robbie, welcome.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for taking my call, and hope you're all safe and all that. I have one question and one suggestion. My question is on the back of Abhijit's comments. I'm hearing that buildings that are not being used for an extended period of time, they can be subject to, respiratory diseases or something along those lines because you're not using those water pipes and all that. Is there a plan for the board to have these buildings serviced regularly? Someone goes and cleans or whatever, instead of incurring a major cost when the buildings eventually open.
Mr. Ryback?
Yeah, I just want to say, Mr. Gorski, that I did mention, Ravi, that the buildings are actually open. The custodial staffs are working in there, making sure everything is up to snuff and clean. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to add to that, Mr. Ryback. The district utilizes the services of an environmental consultant through environmental safety management, and Dr. Lynch will come in and inspect the schools, and he has already given us protocols on cleaning that we've adopted, and we will be ready and safe whenever the green light comes to open schools again.
And my suggestion to you is this: with respect to the last budget, I couldn't really understand why Monroe got what it got, and I thought it was very disproportionate compared to what East Brunswick and the neighboring school districts got. I actually called Senator Greenstein's office and asked him to explain to me why we got paid so low, and they tried to walk me through a formula, and they didn't understand the formula themselves. So it makes sense. And they told me Senator Greenstein herself is on the budget committee, but it's not clear how the governor ultimately decides on who gets what. Apparently, there's some consultants and so on. So it looked like there was some sort of a black box. And at the time, I suggested to them that maybe she should come to Monroe and explain to the public in terms of why she couldn't get us more than what we got. And this just happened before we were hit by the virus. And my suggestion to you is, as we go back to the state, and whenever we open and whenever we are supposed to get the next budget and all that, is for us to have some sort of a plan so we can lobby them as hard as we can and try to get on par, at least, with respect to what other school districts get.
Robbie, if you don't mind me saying, first of all, I want to cut you off. Were you finished?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
You've learned something, got involved with something that we've been involved in for the past, 10 years already or so, and that's insufficient state aid. We've been meeting with, lobbying all our state legislators, and we've been getting a little bit more ahead, but not nearly enough is what we need. The governor, I think it was maybe 2 years ago when S2 was enacted, wound up giving school districts that he felt were not getting enough a little more. And we got very little, but we got, more, and some districts lost some. So it's been an ongoing battle with state aid. I know Mr. Pelori is going to touch on the other matter when he has his committee report, and I'd ask you to be just a little patient and wait for his report, because he's going to address your second concern there. But thank you for your comments.
Mr. Board President, I don't see any new hands up.
Okay. Not seeing any new hands. We could close this public session for the budget, and then we can move for a vote. Mr. Gorski, this is a vote for the budget, the 2020-2021.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll take a roll call at this time on the motion to adopt the 2021 final budget.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
And Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion has unanimously passed. And on behalf of Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, Laura Allen, and myself, we appreciate the board's confidence in us with the 2021 budget. Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work getting that done. Thank you. Okay, we can move on with committee reports. Any committee chair would like to report?
I have a.
Is that Mr. Mayo?
Yep.
Okay.
The curriculum committee met today at 5:30. We covered two topics. We covered the summer reading program, which Kelly Roselle presented. This is preparation for summer reading. Preparation for summer reading begins in January. Teachers collaborate with school media specialists in consultation with the Monroe Township Public Library. Teachers of grade 1 through 5 met virtually to revise the summer reading list for those grade bands. For grades 1 through 5, there are recommended books, authors, and series. There are also resource pages for parents and students to assist in selecting books and building strong reading habits. The summer reading list contains recommended titles for a variety of genres and topics. In school, each grade level provides 10 recommended titles. Teachers work diligently to provide a diverse selection of quality titles. For each list, consideration has been given to all of our students. At each grade level, there are texts that are accessible to all students. Audio versions are available for many titles, as well as translations for some. Excuse me. Once the lists are approved by the Board of Education, they are forwarded to the Monroe Township Public Library to ensure titles are available in print or digital versions. We also have a new course called ESL and Bilingual Education. The new course proposed. This will support the growing population of students identified as lacking educational experience or having gaps in their education. A tutorial course is being proposed. The course will be populated with students who have identified as lacking fundamental skills that could potentially impact their performance in content classes like math and science. The ESL teacher would utilize existing resources and collaborate with content area teachers to identify gaps in foundational skills and remediate them. The goal is to position students to both exit ESL and graduate from high school with the academic and language skills needed in college and workplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. DeMayo? Okay, any other committee chair wanting to report?
Mr. Ryback, it's Rupa. I have a policy committee report.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Our policy committee met last week. We have several policies that were up for review in our policy alerts from Strauss Esme. The committee has reviewed and approved several policies that are on our agenda tonight. I'll share a brief summary for each policy, and then the information can also be found in our policy committee minutes. So all these policies tonight are going for first read. Policy and Regulation 1581, domestic violence. There was a new law enacted in January 2018 requiring a uniform domestic violence policy for public employers to adopt, which encourages public employees who are victims of domestic violence to seek assistance from their human resource officers. Policy 3421.13, postnatal accommodations. This also is being moved forward for first read. It's a new law requires NJDOE to report to the governor and legislature on the lactation-related policies that have been implemented at schools. We have this first policy is for certificated staff, and then we have the second policy, 4421.13, postnatal accommodations for non-certificated staff. So that's our support staff. So that also is moving forward for first read. We have policy number 7243, supervision of construction. Moving forward for first read, this policy addresses criminal history record checks required for construction contractors, employees serving in a position which involves regular contact with students. We also have policy 8210, school year. It's going forward for first read. There's some revisions included listing the minimum duration of a school year to no fewer than 180 school days to receive state aid, recommending the date for the board to approve the next year's calendar by May 1st, expanding circumstances for the calendar to be altered by the board during the school year. We also have policy 8220, school day, moving forward for first read. Some changes, reviews requirements regarding a school day, shortened school day, and kindergarten class sizes. Regulation for this, regulation 8220, school closing. We're also moving that to first read. Revised to include more current practices of communicating closing and early dismissals. And the last policy was policy 8462, reporting potentially missing or abused children. Moving forward for first read, this new statute requires the Board of Ed to display specific information in each school building about the Department of Children and Family State Central Registry, a toll-free hotline for reporting child abuse, which we do have all these signs in our school buildings currently. And one other item I wanted to go over, I had brought up at last month's board policy meeting, an education piece that we were going to review, but being that we were trying to stick to agenda items, I had held this policy education piece for this meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, following suit from what we had stated earlier this year, that we would like to continue to educate the public on policy regarding board meetings and board procedures. So tonight is board meetings. School board meetings are meetings of the board in public. Thus, school board meetings are not meetings of the public with the board. The public is entitled to observe board action in public, but the public is not entitled to interrupt the proceedings of the board. Community members may speak at a board meeting where allowed in the agenda. Also, they have the 10 commandments for board meetings, which are: 1, faithfully attend all board meetings. Recognize that decisions are made by the majority of the board and then supported by all board members. Come to meetings prepared and informed in order to make decisions based on the available facts. Delegate authority for policy implementation and administration to the superintendent. Focus on policymaking, planning, and goal setting. Follow parliamentary procedure and communicate appropriately. Encourage open expression of opinions by being courteous and respectful of others. Refuse to surrender judgment to individuals or special interest groups. Respect confidentiality of information, and make decisions based on the educational welfare of all students. This information is also in our policies, our board policies that we do follow. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. Anyone else? Question, Ms. Alminio, for Ms. Siegel?
Yes, I do. Before the, when we received this policy, the education for the public on school board meetings. So there are 2 parts to what we received, right? The 10 commandments are supposed to be for the board members. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the first part where it says school board meetings, and you have it in quotes, are meetings of the boards in public. Who authored that quote?
I got this information from our school governance, New Jersey school boards information, and that information is also in our policy.
Right, and I have seen that before. I've always had an objection to that. I'd like to speak to that. We ask our taxpayers to pony up for the taxes, and more we keep increasing our taxes, and then we don't want our public to speak. And I know they can speak at our meetings. However, I really find this a chilling effect. I think it's a rude statement. I'm not saying you did it, even from school boards. I don't like it at all, and I think we should reevaluate having that in there. I think it stymies the interaction with the board and the people. And I know we have to have an official meeting and do business of the district, but we have a lot of these meetings. We have presentations with students. I mean, you can interpret this that the public can't clap for their own kids. They can't, have positive reactions in the audience. I mean, so if we can't do that, I think that's a problem. But also, if people have problems with what's going on at the meeting, I really think if they happen to have a little bit of an outburst, as long as it's not ridiculously disruptive, I think this is where the public keeps their governance. They have a right to bring these things to our attention. I really don't like the way this sounds. I think it's infantile. It makes the board treat the public like infants. I really find it offensive. That's my opinion.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes, Mr. Chiarella?
I agree with Ms. Arminio. And I wonder if this 10 Commandments also stipulates, that creating hate packets and distributing them prior to board meetings about members of the public is also wrong and a sin. Right? Since this is called the 10 Commandments, breaking them, I guess, would be called a sin. Is that sin mentioned here? Is that part of this?
You're talking to me or Ms. Siegel?
Ms. Siegel, or you, whoever wants to answer.
I'll just comment on something. I think sometimes, certain things are subjective and certain things are very hard to define. What you might consider disruptive, somebody else may not. So I don't think we're going to be able to settle that here. But I think it's something that if you have an objection to, that maybe we could bring it up at a policy meeting, if that's okay with you. I can't see us settling this here. It's a subjective. These things are, like I said, it's who's to say. It's annoying to one person, maybe not annoying to another one. But board meetings in general, I'm talking in general. I'm not referring to any specific thing. Have to move on. The board business needs to move on. We can't have people screaming and yelling and saying, well, they're only expressing themselves or something, if it's preventing the board from doing this business. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to think about, is making sure the board can continue doing its business.
I have a question, Steve. One of those commandments states that we're not supposed to put special interests above anything else. Does that include the mayor as well, or is it just
well, I don't know what you mean,
like PSA or PTO, or is it just the mayor's office? Does that include the mayor's office?
I don't know what you're referring to as far as special interests in the mayor's office.
I'm asking if we're supposed to put the mayor's wishes above what's best for the children, or is he excluded from that commandment?
I have to tell you, I would absolutely say not. And I have to tell you, in all fairness, I've never seen the mayor or any other politician, I don't want to just, finger point to one, put their wishes on the Board of Education. Never been contacted by any of them to do anything or support anything. That's never happened.
I never said it happened. I'm asking if we can add the mayor's office into that commandment.
I don't think we should do anything that we shouldn't do legally or ethically. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I answered your question.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Just one.
Arminio, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You sort of made my point when you talked about things being subjective. I have seen over the 6 years that I have been on the board that people who vehemently disagree with some of our actions, including my own, have been silenced or coerced into silence or intimidated by some security procedures. So I do think it's very, I think we should beware of how we proceed with that. Yes, we have to do the business of the public, but we invite the public in. It is I disagree with the first statement. It is the public's place. This is, the public pays for it. It's their house, it's their government. And I have seen all too often in the last 6 years that the subjective decision of some people on the board to curtail public involvement is very disturbing. So I just want to keep that, and I will continue to say it. I know I feel I sound like a broken record, but freedom of speech and our democratic processes are very, very important to me. And just because, and I know our own attorney has said that it's the official meeting and the district has to do business. I agree with that. But we can go above and beyond the strict letter of the law to prove to our high-paying taxpayers that we respect them, we represent them, and we listen to them. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other committee person want to report?
Steve, this is Andy. Probably I'm walking into a slippery slope here, but let me just say what's on my mind, and I think I need to speak my mind on this. I completely agree with Mrs. Arminio's point about the first statement about being harsh. I think that is something that we should take into consideration, that we are working for the people of the township, and we need to do what's in the best interest of them. To Peter's comment about having special interest, I believe the last point that Rupa read speaks to that we should be working in the best interest of the education of all the children. If I recall correctly, I don't have it in front of me, but I think that speaks to that. So I think ultimately we want to be able to report only to the citizens, working on the best interests of the kids in our district. So in terms of other stuff, we want to be able to continue having a meaningful conversation. I think there's a lot of good information come from the public. They share their thoughts. Some of the things that not anybody on this board thinks of from time to time. It comes from a public, and it has to be something that's mutually respectable, mutually agreeable, and also we should be able to agree to disagree on things and move on. And it should not get personal. Whether you want to call it a hate package, or you want to call it as a truth package, or you want to assassinate a character on a Facebook, day in, day out, for every damn thing that we do, it is the same thing. But as far as the meetings are concerned, at a minimum, we need to maintain a certain, character to it. I think that's what this whole reading reads to. And this is not something that's unique to Monroe Township. It's certainly across the state. So I think we need to respect the way we were asked to perform and abide by the guidelines that we have. And yet I agree that maybe the wording could be changed, because it does seem starting off that it is not the right way to treat our citizens coming and making a comment.
I've always said that all of us serve as an example to the whole town, and children especially, and how we speak and how we act and how we interact with each other in the public. So obviously, if this requires some conversation, why don't we bring it to the policy committee and discuss it, so that we can move on today and maybe make some headway in the policy committee and come some sort of agreement there that will improve things. Okay. Any other committee chair wanting to report?
Do you want to go? Or you want me to go?
No, go ahead. Sure. I didn't hear anybody else.
All right. First of all, good evening to my fellow board members, and also to the 35 people who joined online with us. And I hope everybody's staying safe and your families are doing well. On April 22nd, we actually had the Educational Advocacy Committee meeting. The agenda included 4 separate items, and I'm going to touch on each one of them. The first item that we discussed was about the bill, Assembly Bill 3902, which is the one that we started discussing earlier on when we were talking about the budget. This bill actually went through without any opposition, with 100% of the people voting for it in Assembly. That was a while ago, almost a couple of months ago. And since then, the School Board Association, along with a lot of other people, other districts and boards, actually picked up on it.
If you don't mind, I'm going to be presenting on that at the president's report. I'll be touching on that 3902. I mean, certainly, if you need to say a few things, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I forgot. I thought maybe you're doing it here, Steve. I apologize. Then I'm going to defer that. But all I'm going to say to you, to the public also, is that this bill is taking different shapes right now. It's not the way it went through Assembly. It's going into the Senate. So I think we can certainly send some support, some letters opposing the bill. But as you said, I'll let you speak on that. And if there's any questions, I can answer. But I'm monitoring that very closely, along with you and Michael Gorski, and also with Dory Alwick. The second one is a potential letter writing, and quite honestly, I want to bring it back to the entire board to have a discussion on that. We do have a letter that was drafted by the district, sort of revised by me, and then edited by Jill and Steve. Basically, it's the same letter that we had from the previous time, but we wanted to reduce the content of it. But right now, as most of us have been discussing, the issue is, are we going to get the money that we were promised that we would get from the state, let alone asking for more? So is the timing ripe for it? And obviously, there's no Senate or Assembly budget hearings that are ongoing right now.
Has left the meeting.
Senate or Assembly budget hearings are not happening. So one thought during in the committee meeting was to put this off until such time that it becomes necessary for us to do the letter writing campaign, specifically asking for more funding. But I think there was another topic about putting letters together in support of the bill, in opposing the bill, not supporting, opposing the bill 3902, which I think Steve is going to discuss. And if that's the case, if that motion that's going to be made by Steve Ryback passes, we can certainly draft another letter and get that to the public to send it out. The other item was actually, we talked about the advertising policy. As we heard, how do we increase our revenues coming in? Because we seem to find, several holes to this bucket, but how do we get some water into the bucket? And that's what we're trying to do in the Education Advocacy Committee. And Dr. Alwick, would you want to give a brief update on what is being discussed about advertising policy, please?
Yes, so there are five advertising policies. Three of them we already had in our policy manual. So those were up for reaffirmation. They were reaffirmed last month. The other two, we had to write those policies, and we took some guidance from Strauss Esme on how we can do that. So the policy put that forward last month for a first read. They are on tonight's agenda for a second read. So if they are approved this evening, then we can move forward with looking on how Mr. Gorski and I would look at how are we going to implement those policies and find advertising.
Thank you very much. And the last item is a resolution to in support of the township ordinance that is going on. Many of you must have heard about the tractor trailer ban on some of the roads that are going east-west, specifically the Prospect Plains Road, Cranberry Half Acre Road, as well as the Cranberry Station Road. These are the roads that lead from Cranberry into Monroe Township, and the township has actually applied for a tractor trailer ban of anything over 8 tons, and it went through the county. County approved it. And now it's going into the Department of Transportation. And I think it will be beneficial if the Board of Education also supports this ordinance in terms of safety for the local public, as well as school-going children. So I would like to make a resolution supporting the township ordinance. And I'm going to read the resolution. And if there's any discussion or questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. The resolution is, whereas in October 2019, the Monroe Township Council unanimously approved an ordinance restricting tractor trailers weighing more than 8 tons from Cranberry Station Road, Prospect Plains Road, and Cranberry Half Acre Road west of Applegarth in Monroe Township. And whereas the New Jersey Department of Transportation is currently considering this issue, and whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education believes that these weight restrictions would be in the best interest of Monroe Township School District and the taxpayers of Monroe Township, and whereas the board desires to support council in its efforts in this regard to approve this resolution now, therefore be it resolved that the Monroe Township Board of Education hereby first request the Department of Transportation approve the aforementioned tractor trailer weight restrictions, and 2, directs the business administrator and the board secretary send a copy of the resolution to the Commissioner of New Jersey Department of Transportation, the executive manager, a traffic engineer of the New Jersey Department of Transportation, along with Senator Linda Greenstein, Assemblyman Wayne D'Angelo, Assemblyman Daniel Benson, Middlesex County freeholders, and the mayor of Monroe Township.
Mayor Gerald Tamboro.
Mayor Jerry Tamboro, yep.
Can somebody move that?
I'll move that.
We have a second.
Mr. Pelori made the motion.
Okay, then I'll second it.
Second, okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
Steve, if I'm Mr. Ryback.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I am going to support this motion, but I just want to be clear on some of the points and the reasons why, right? So I know that those side roads leading to Applegarth are dangerous, and I know that we have not only students, but we have a lot of our population who live on those roads and travel on those roads, and they're inundated with dangerous traffic and that kind of thing. And I know that over the years, a number of people from those areas have reached out to me and asked if there was anything that could be done regarding that. So I know how important it is. I will say, though, that I think that this was done as a political ploy for last November. Not this motion, but the fact that the fact that it was put forward when it was political. I also think that it says a lot about the golf course land, right? So the golf course land is right on those roads. We were told that it's safe and it was great and it was the best piece of property to build on, and then we put a referendum up to use that land, and it was defeated. And a year or so later, we're being told it's so dangerous over there that we need to have a truck ban. Now, would we have had a truck ban for the children, or do we just have those kind of bans in election years, that kind of thing? So I'm going to support it because I think it's needed. I think the town is overbuilt and overdeveloped, and we've given the developers everything, and we need to push back. But I also just want to voice my concerns about the land and about why this is being done. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to say something too, please.
Peter, go ahead.
A couple of months back, we had the pleasure of having the sergeant from the traffic department in Monroe Township at a BG&T meeting. I expressed to him the need for some cones, divider cones, at the rear entrance of the high school, right off Parentville. When students are headed towards the high school on Parentville, they occasionally have been stopping there to make a left when it's illegal. A few of our students have been rear-ended at that location. The sergeant said he would get back to me, and he never did. He also went to a council meeting. I asked the board president about it. He said he would get back to me. I'm sorry, the council president. He told me he would get back to me, and I didn't hear anything from him. We had a problem on Mounts Mill Road for at least 5 years. Probably half a dozen people got killed there. School buses roll past that intersection every day. Nobody did anything about it. Now you're asking me.
Spotswood, Englishtown. You talking about that intersection there?
Mounts Mill Road and Spotswood, Englishtown. Yeah, there's a lot of death there, and all of a sudden, now 5 years later, there's a light there. But for 5 years, we put our school buses and parents and anybody who drove past there at risk. Nobody did anything about it. It's not our problem. It's the county problem. Now you're asking me to vote for a truck ban that does not stop trucks from going up and down Applegarth, just from the side roads. So to me, this is in one of those commandments where it's special interest, okay? It is of no interest to the Board of Ed that we back up that truck ban. None at all. Those trucks are still going to pass by Applegarth and all the schools that are on Applegarth. So it's not helping us whatsoever, and I cannot see why we're involved in this. That's all I have to say.
I'd like to just say a few things, and of course anybody else can. Mr. Tufano, I know this came up at Buildings and Grounds, and what I'm saying now is pretty much what I said then. We have heard numerous residents over the past few years complaining about the truck traffic on Cranberry Crossing and Applegarth around that area. When we did referendum presentations in Cranberry Crossing, and I said this last time, the residents living there were livid over the amount of tractor-trailer traffic in that area. Now we're thinking of the referendum is putting a school up in that area, and obviously it would affect the safety of kids and the residents. And we've even had people come to school board meetings and complain about we're not going to vote for a referendum because of the traffic in that area. So I think it certainly does impact the school system, and I think it's really a positive move for us to support this because we need the truck ban. Now, Mr. Pelori, I'm going to ask you this. I know at the BG&T meeting, you explained using your expertise about the traffic down Applegarth Road. Would you mind repeating that?
I don't mind repeating that at all. I think there was some confusion in the BG&T meeting that I think Peter probably thought that the Applegarth Road was one of the roads that are going to be shut down. I think we clarified that. Let's step back for a second. The issue really is, and I want everybody to pay a little bit of attention on this. If I go offline, please stop me and ask me a question. Is that right now what's going on in Cranberry is that they have a master plan, and the master plan calls for about 20 million square feet of warehousing to go in. And they're building 5 million square feet of warehousing in bunches all over Cranberry Township. And the master plan also calls for widening of Route 130. And also it calls for building what's called as a Liberty Way that would connect from these warehouse complexes onto 130 so that the traffic would, not the traffic, actually the tractor trailers would go from this directly onto 130 and off to the New Jersey Turnpike. So what happened was they got the bill for what it's going to cost them to do the Liberty Way, which is about $30 million plus. So they squashed that. But in terms of the development of the warehouses, that's continuing to go. So what Cranberry did is anything that's to the west of 130, they put a truck ban, tractor trailer ban, and said you cannot go through our neighborhoods. So stop that, and you are forced to go towards Monroe Township, and you have to get onto Applegarth Road to get on onto the turnpike. So they basically diverted all of the traffic on our side. So that is the reason why we're trying to pass this, to make sure that the people who live in Stratford can have their kids walk. You know, I see a lot of them jog on the area. There's senior communities there. And just like, you know, Peter is concerned about, we don't want traffic coming off of these three roads, making a left onto Applegarth, a right onto Applegarth, and go down on the Applegarth and other schools that we have to access Route 33. I think this is good for the community. This is good for the safety of the children, and it's good for the township. So I can't imagine anybody saying we cannot support this. That's my opinion on it. And I have seen this over a long period of time that this is something that's much needed. And also, should we decide to develop the golf course site in the future, and that's another thing that we can address, is that the tractor trailers are not going to go through there. But this is for right now to avoid all the traffic that would go on to the west side of 130 and not to make them come to the east side into our town. That's why we have this motion in front of us.
Thank you.
But they can still go up Applegarth, correct?
No, they can't. You're taking out
They can go on Applegarth Road. They just can't go on the side roads leading to Applegarth.
Right. So
Right.
what would
They're going to be driving past the new school on the golf course anyway. Is that correct?
No. So now they're going to be forced. No, they're going to be forced to go on 130. What's the other road we have there? Cranberry South River Road.
Why when they get off the turnpike, come down Forest Gate and make a right on Applegarth? I'm not following that. I'm sorry.
They come down Applegarth. They can't make a right turn into where they need to go. They have to go all the way down to 33.
From coming down Applegarth, where the school will be.
Why would anybody come down on Applegarth, Peter? That's the thing. That they have no incentive to come on Applegarth. They can take 130 or Cranberry South River Road.
So people that are heading to the shore, truck drivers that are heading to the shore, what exit do they get off on the turnpike?
They get off at exit 8. Or maybe even if you're going to the shore, actually, they should get off at 7A and take 195 all the way to the east.
No, they're going to get off at, they're not going to pay those tolls, Andy. They're going to get off at our exit. They're going to come down Forest Gate Drive, make a right up Applegarth, and head to 130 to get to the shore. That's what truck drivers do. They don't want to pay the big tolls.
Peter, you're losing me again. You're saying that they're going to get off and get on to Applegarth to get on to 130. Why would they want to come into Monroe? If they want to go to 130, they make a right and go on 520 Route 32 and then make a left turn onto 130.
Okay, did anybody do a traffic study which way they go?
Yes.
Well, how come nobody's seen that traffic study?
It's on the website. It's on the township website.
I've never seen it. Nobody ever announced that there's a traffic study for that.
There was a study done, and the study has to go in as a part of the application to the county, and the same information goes to the state as well.
I'll again, I don't think it is the board's business to be involved in traffic. That is not our purpose. We have other bigger fish to fry.
All right, look, I'm just going to interrupt you. I know I want us to at least move on. If there's any other board member who comment, otherwise I'd like to call the question and have a vote.
This is Michelle Arminio. I just have one question for Mr. Pelori. This discussion has been going on. I looked for the resolution prior to this meeting. Was it on your committee website in board docs? Because I did not see it.
Yes, it was.
When did it get posted?
Certainly prior to the education advocacy meeting that took place on April 22nd.
I didn't get a resolution for that, first of all.
I didn't see
That
it.
was not online.
It's also on the Friday confidential folder.
The resolution.
You should have had it.
So we're gonna stop the trucks from flowing, but we're gonna add school buses. That's gonna be just as safe for the residents over there.
Mr. Ryback, if you call the question, you have.
I did. I'm calling the question. I think I don't want
to go right to a vote then.
Let's just vote. Gorski.
Mike, you're on mute.
Mr. Gorski, yes, we'll do a roll call vote on the resolution supporting the township ordinance.
Okay, if it's a motion to call the question first.
Yes.
So Mr. Ryback is making a motion to call the question. Mrs. Koloponowicz, second?
I'll second it, yes.
That's what I thought I heard. Okay, now I'm going to take a vote, and then it's a priority motion. So if there are more yays than nays on this, we will go right to a vote on the question and stop deliberation.
Okay.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yay.
Mr. Tefano.
No.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
No.
Mr. Pelori.
Yay.
Mrs. Arminio.
No.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
No.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Board President, motion is called, and I will go to a roll call now on Mr. Pelori's motion, supported by Mrs. Koloponowicz, regarding the tractor trailer ban. Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
I'm going to abstain on that one.
Abstain, so noted. Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Rutsky.
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
No.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, Mr. Pelori's motion passes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. That ends my report for the Education Advocacy Committee.
Can I ask a question, please?
I couldn't hear who said that.
I would like to ask a question.
Sure, go ahead.
If this doesn't pass through the county, are we going to not build a school there? Because then it would be just too dangerous. Am I correct?
Peter, it already passed through the county. It's already been approved by the county. It's going to the state.
I'm asking. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. If it doesn't get approved by the state, are we going to not build a school there because it's too dangerous?
I think that's Peter, I think that's a question I'm going to ask you to hold for next month when we talk.
No, it's a question everybody can answer now. I mean, if the state doesn't approve this, and obviously it's very dangerous there. Apparently, there's been a lot of deaths there from trucks. Am I wrong? Oh, yes, I am wrong. There's been no deaths from trucks. If that doesn't pass, will we build a school there, being that it's so dangerous that we need to pass this resolution?
I can't see us answering that now. I mean, it's.
Let me ask you a question, Peter. So do you suggest that we have the tractor trailers come through our residential neighborhoods into our town while they're not bringing any taxes to us? You think that's okay?
Hey, Andy, not for nothing, but we have trucks that pass through this town and every other street that do the same thing. Are we now going to stop people from making a living because they don't contribute to our taxes?
I'm going to
say that's ridiculous what you just said, really.
I'm going to interrupt.
20 million square feet.
You know
20 million square feet
go into Monroe. Excuse me. I'm not done speaking. Excuse me.
But you
know how many trucks go into Monroe that pass through Jamesburg, Spotswood, and all surrounding towns that do not contribute to their tax roll? Dozens a day, hundreds a day.
Peter, are you suggesting that we add more then?
I'm suggesting that we allow commerce to take place to our town, not just because it's inconvenient for some people, Because what happens when they say, we don't want any school buses on Applegarth? Now what do? Do we argue that school buses are safer than tractor trailers? This is not our business, but I've spoken my piece and I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I want to move on. Do we have any other committee chair that needs to report?
Mr. Ryback,
Yes.
if I may, and this has nothing to do with that, I just wanted to ask Mr. Polari a question, and I know you're going to cover 3902 in your report, but he mentioned writing the letters, right? And so I just wanted to, and he mentioned wanting to get the full board's input on it. So, which I agree with. I just wanted to ensure that the full board was hearing that I personally believe that we should write the letter, but I also think that what we should be putting in that letter is the impact that bill will have on us if it's used, and what those cuts would mean, and what the immediate effects were. And I know Mr. Gorski brought that up in the Educational Advocacy Committee meeting, and I thought it was a great idea. But I just wanted to mention that because I didn't think it was mentioned. And
thank you for bringing it up, Kim. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think we forgot even a more important thing that we should have been talking about. So the real concern, or what I wanted to bring back to the entire board is, I don't think anybody disagrees that we need to make sure that we send letters opposing the bill. The question really was that should we be combining that with asking for additional money, or table that for now and just have only the letter talk about the bill itself? I think the sentiment in the committee meeting was that we should only focus on the bill, rejecting the bill. If anybody disagrees with that, then we can have a conversation. But if everybody else agrees, then we'll draft a letter and get it to the Education Advocacy Committee first, and then to the entire board in the next week or two, and get the ball rolling on that.
Talking about the letter opposing 3902 or the letter about state aid?
Correct, by itself. I don't see anybody saying
by itself.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. The only thing that I would say is I think it's still important for us to spell out what the impact of that could be for our district if it's implemented. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody not agree with that? Okay, so we're in favor of doing that. You could start doing it. All right. Any other committee chair? You don't have a finance or anything? No? Okay.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
I have one question for Mr. Gorski.
Okay.
In the finance committee, I did ask him how much money we're saving on fuel and food. I'm still waiting for an answer for that, and I think he needs to answer Mrs. Skirby's question too.
He did answer to the best of his ability, and I don't see any reason to repeat that.
I think honestly, as the finance, I don't think we're going to be able to answer that question until the school year ends and we close out the budget, and we'll be able to.
Do we have how much? What's our budget on fuel then? Does anybody know that? No one knows that.
Assume there's a number out there, and we'll be able to compare it for last year to this year once this year closes.
There's a line.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gorski.
The board's presented with interim financial statements every month that show all the detailed accounts in the transportation account. As far as a cumulative saving on fuel, it's one appropriation of literally thousands that we could look at calculating the savings of having schools closed. But I say to you, there are no material savings from having schools closed these few weeks. Because as I was saying before I was interrupted rudely, all salaries are still being paid. All benefits are still being paid. All insurances are still being paid. Workers' comp, property and casualty. All the bus leases are still being paid. All the equipment leases, the iPad leases, computer leases, still being paid. Trailer leases, still being paid. Contracted services are required by the state to still being paid for buses and private schools. So we're paying for buses services to the Ed Service Commission, even though they're not running buses. And we're losing a significant amount of revenue on Falcon Care. So there is no material savings from having the schools closed this week except for a small amount of diesel, a small amount of gas and electric. That's it. But it's not material to the whole scope of the budget at all.
Don't forget, we're
And what do we spend on lunches every month? What do we spend on fuel every month? How do we not know this?
Beg your pardon, we do know this. It's in the financial statements. It's reported to the penny every month.
We're going to be out 8 weeks. What's the number?
All right, we don't have the number, and I'm not going to have us keep asking the same question. Oh, we don't have the number. He answered your question. He answered Mrs. Kirby's question the same way. We can't keep answering the same questions, asking the same questions over and over. It's been just.
I didn't even get an answer at the finance committee.
Yes, I know you said that, but this was the answer that you got. I know you don't obviously agree with it, but this is the answer you got. And I think we need to move on. We can't keep asking the same question.
Can I ask Mr. Gorski a question?
Sure, Mrs. Collins.
This is Kathy. Food service, Mike, isn't that an enterprise fund? So that does not come out of the operating budget?
That's correct, Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
So you wouldn't have any kind of food, lunches that we would be losing money on other than the kids paying and going into the enterprise fund. It doesn't come back to our operating budget. So we wouldn't be saving or losing any money there.
That's correct. The cost of the lunches is clearly offset with the cost paid by the students. That fund is designed to break even by its nature. So if you're not running it at a deficit except for depreciation. And it has no tie to the general fund at all. It's a self-sustaining, meant to break even fund.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski. All right, now I don't think there are any other board members want to do the committee reports. So we can move on to the public forum. This will be for agenda items only. You'll have 4 minutes. Please state your name and address when you get on the mic. Mr. Washington, are we ready?
Mr. Board President, I see 4 hands raised, but I think they were raised from questions or comments on the budget. If the public could lower their hands and then raise them again, then we can recognize you.
Mr. Washington, again, these are questions pertaining to the agenda.
Hey, the first hand I see up, Mrs. Skirby.
Okay. Skirby, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. I would like to say, first of all, Mr. Gorski, I did not rudely cut you off. I didn't want my time wasted. I had a specific question.
Mr. Chair, the comments are directed at the chair, not an individual.
Which was not answered. Secondly, I'd like to comment on the curriculum update. I'm sitting here now over, an hour and a half, listening to board members going back and forth about traffic studies, about so much that has nothing to do with education of our children during this pandemic. I tuned into the curriculum meeting. There was zero information, zero discussion, zero questions about remote learning or any educational information for our children currently. What is the plan going to be when we go back? Is there a plan being developed? I mean, I'm outraged as a parent. I tuned into the curriculum meeting. Ms. DeMayo, what she read as her update was longer than the meeting. I'm just flabbergasted at what's going on. And this entire meeting has been arguing back and forth, reading 10 commandments. I'm sorry, that's insulting as a Christian. It's offensive, and I take great offense to that. And I'd like to say, if you're going to start making rules, you shouldn't be making rules against the public. How about you, as administrators and as board members, start respecting the public? Because I'm sorry, to call me rude, I've been called a piece of shit. You're going to sit there and say a hate packet is a truth packet? You have no respect for the public. For many of us in the public, We're told not to clap our hands. We're told not to go to the microphone. You get security to come after us. I can't even comprehend what goes on in your heads. Our children are out of school for almost 8 weeks. We've taken on the role as homeschooling. Our teachers are doing a fantastic job. I give Dr. Alvick, I give the principals, I give Dr. Lehman a great round of applause for what they're trying to do and accomplish for our children. But then I come onto this board meeting and this is what you're all talking about. You're fighting about which way Trump's going. It's unbelievable that you've not had any discussion about our children, about our education, about how to honor the kids moving up from 5th grade, moving up from 3rd grade, moving up from the 8th grade, moving up from high school. None of this concerns you. It's politics, the mayor, the traffic. Are we going to build a school on a golf course? Why don't you try speaking about education? Think about our children and our students and our teachers. Why are we not hearing anything about what is actually taking place and how we're going to deal with it? It's disturbing, and you should all be ashamed of yourselves.
All right, I just want to comment. She's finished with that. Just a few comments I'll make. I said earlier, I complimented Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, Mr. Gorski. Dr. Alvick has been sending weekly letters, emails out to the parents talking about the virtual learning and things going on with schools. We've seen videos from some of the principals send videos from the schools that were made by the teachers, including the kids. So we're pretty well aware of what's going on, and I give a lot of credit to the administration for this. The board members do not administer the educational program. The administration does that. But we certainly are talking about things that impact education and things that we need to have to think about as a future referendum or anything that may impact education. And we've been doing that. May not all agree with everything, but that's okay. That's what life's all about. But certainly we're aware we have weekly updates by the superintendent of things going on in the school. She's available. Mr. Gorski's available. Dr. Lehman's available all the time for questions and comments, and they get right back to us on it. So I don't see any problem with that. And again, we don't administer it. As far as what goes on as far as our meetings, our agendas are here. We're doing things that certainly impact the schools, and obviously we think it's important. I'm sorry you disagree with that. We have anybody else? Mr. Washington?
Mr. Board President, you have Ram Raghunath.
Okay, welcome, Ram.
Hey, thank you, Steve. Yeah, I don't know. I think overall I agree with the points that Chrissy made. Right. I just felt that today's agenda, I'm sorry to say, it was poor. Did not really reflect today's situation or the crisis. And really, while hats off to Dr. Alwick, Dr. Lehman, and all the principals, they've done an awesome job. In fact, they should be recognized at the earliest. But I felt the board did not, I don't know, should have been discussing things that could further them, help them, be a step ahead, right? And instead, I don't know why Mr. Paluri spends so much time on this traffic proposal, which has zero connection with today's issues and the education. I just see that as being a political move to get some brownie points, but no connection to to really the education and more important items that we have to discuss. We probably wasted 15-20 minutes on that topic, and I have to say I'm disappointed.
Okay, I'm sorry, disappointed. I mean, I just want to emphasize that this is for agenda items only.
Yes, that was on the agenda, right?
Okay.
Right? Am I wrong? Wasn't that on the agenda?
No, I just didn't want us to sway off of that, getting into arguments and things with people between board members. But go ahead.
No, I felt that the board spent a disproportionate time on an issue that has more to do with the town than the Board of Education, right? I didn't see at the last meeting the passion when we asked for a letter to be written. I don't know if it was Mr. Tufano or who, right, to ask for the, cut back on the building permits and the constructions, because that has direct impact on the school. I didn't see that much passion to go behind that, right? And we spend so much time on a traffic thing. Really, I'm appalled.
Well, I can answer something too. We heard back, from the town's attorney. It would be illegal for the town to stop the construction. It would be a violation. This is what their attorney said and what our attorney said. It would be a violation of their constitutional right. It also would violate the statute, state law. So they can't stop construction. Even though we unanimously passed that, that was the answer from the town.
Thank you, Mr. Everett.
Sure. Next person.
Mr. Board President, you have Ravi Sharavu.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
First of all, I have a couple of things. I'm going to be disagreeing with the two previous callers, and I'm going to be disagreeing with Mr. Tufano. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. We are in a very, very fluid situations, and the teachers and you guys are trying to figure out how to make the best or what to do the best for the kids, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. So first of all, hats off to you.
Thank you.
So second one, I disagree with the callers saying that the traffic is irrelevant. It is completely irrelevant. It couldn't be more relevant. The reason being, I'm calling from crossings at Monroe, and I live at the intersection. I see what is happening out there. And in fact, we voted down the first referendum to build because of the exact same reasons, that there is traffic increasing, and with the trucks coming on board as well, it is a nightmare for us. And I will guarantee you that if the state doesn't stop this thing, that residents of crossings at Monroe, Stratford, and Monroe Chase will vote down the referendum 3. And I will guarantee. So I do applaud Mr. Pillori for bringing this up, and it is extremely relevant to for the school, because it is tied to building the school out here, and it is tied to the future of our kids. So I applaud the board on both of these counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, you have Pradeep Malam.
Okay. Pradeep, go ahead.
Yeah. So you guys are all lost my expectations, so I have no comments. Whatever you guys want to do, you guys are doing it. Just go ahead and do it. I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, you have Ajit Sethi.
Okay.
Yes, hi. Thank you. And like I said, like one of the callers said earlier on, I think all of us are doing the best we can. So I appreciate everyone's work here. See, I just needed to table a couple of things. One is, I think at some point we need to start planning for some sort of risk mitigation, right? Whether it is budget related or policy related, or the fact that we may not be able to achieve the 180 days of instruction unless and until the feds and the state make law changes. What does that look like? Any impact on tax collection? What does that look like? So I'm not sure if there is a plan or a working committee that's being put together to do that. I don't know if any one of you can answer that.
We don't have any committee on that as yet, but some things like that may come out of a BG&T when we start talking about the referendums. Or building schools.
The other thing is, if this continues, I can guarantee you that your special education costs will go higher, because we don't have the means to remotely address that population. And I can guarantee you, given my experience, that it can at least go 3 times from where it is when you have to actually send teachers to homes to literally cater to that population, and which is absolutely critical. Otherwise, you lose a lot of funding too. So you may want to make a note of that. If there is a working committee coming together from a risk mitigation point of view, you might want to look into that, because that can skew your budgets as well. The last bit that I wanted to talk is, everyone's talking about virtual learning environment or remote learning environment. Many of the curriculum products that you are using today are not suited for online learning. keep in mind it was still designed, even though even if they were digital, they are still designed in a way where it has to be used in the classroom context with a teacher, not with a parent. So if you're having curriculum or active curriculum meetings, you may want to look into that aspect, because unless and until you use curriculum products which can be used in collaboration with some coach or a caregiver, I don't think we can address the population if we continue with this situation after September 2.
Let's hope we get the students back in the classroom with the teachers and the way it's supposed to be, and then using our school buildings. The sooner the better. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, I see no new hands raised.
Okay, not seeing anyone. We'll move on and have the Assistant Superintendent's report. Dr. Lehman.
Good evening. I just want to give an update on the curriculum and things that are going on in the district. There's a lot to report out. The situation we're in regarding COVID-19 has changed the way we're operating. The staff and administrative team has stepped up and continue to step up despite never teaching 100% in a remote format. We're working through challenges. We're working through tech issues. We're changing things as the guidance changes for us. As the state evolves their guidance, as the county evolves their guidance, we are kind of shifting gears and moving forward. That included, revisiting how we're going to grade students for third and fourth marking period. We've looked at sequencing, scope and sequence of curricula. As we figure out the term in which we're going to be remote learning, we have to further kind of take a look and see sequencing wise what we need to address. Seeds what we're going to do and how we'll plan for next year, what kind of remediation, revisiting topics and such. We're making sure we get all the mission critical topics done as best we can in a remote environment. And when we get back to face-to-face learning, whatever that looks like, we will address everything when we get back. That's our primary focus. So teachers are engaging students in a variety of means, both digital and print, in collaboration with parents. They are adjusting workloads to ensure students' engagement is based on individualized student needs. Every classroom is going to have work that not cookie cutter. There are stories in districts we've heard around here that when we first started this, everyone got the same photocopied piece of paper, and if you were in first grade, everyone did the same thing in every class district-wide. We're proud to say that's not something that happened here. When we took some time right before this all happened and provided our staff with professional development and got them up and running, and then they learned as they kind of experienced this firsthand when this first happened. So we're proud to say that we're doing the best we can. We're improving every day, and we're working day and night to support the students and the staff here in the community as we move through this uncharted territory. Something exciting, our clubs at the high school and our action clubs and teams are still competing whenever they can in a virtual environment. So last Thursday, the Monroe Township High School Economics and Finance team competed in the 2020 Personal Finance Challenge. The teams from Monroe placed 1st, 4th, 9th, and 10th place, and we had one team that also received honorable mentions. The first place team is going to represent the state of New Jersey in the online preliminary championship round on May 1st. We're very excited, and congratulations to the Econ and Finance team. They're directed by Ms. Weiss. And then the Monroe Township High School Environmental Action Club, they've been planning a eco night, and they've been putting a lot of work into it through the entire school year. And as soon as we closed, they shifted gears, and in place of a physical event where the public would have been invited to attend presentations by students, they transitioned to a digital format. They hosted their first eco night, virtual eco night, on the evening of April 17th. The website is still live. Dr. Albeck sent it out in her weekly update this past Friday. It can also be found through our website. And we're extremely proud of what they did, how they pulled it together. If you take some time and go through the websites, there's presentations and research on a variety of eco-centric topics. So congratulations to everyone who was involved in that activity. And that's my
Thank you, Dr. Lehman.
Mr. Ryback, may I ask Dr. Lehman, or through
Let me
you?
ask if any board members have questions. Go ahead, Ms. Almany.
Okay, how many of our students do not have remote learning? Do we have a count on that?
So every student or every family, I should say, that has reached out to say they do not have technology, we have supported them with either Chromebook or an iPad.
All of the students that.
Everyone that has reached out that we are aware of that does not have technology, and we've made contact with every family.
Do you have a raw number?
I could work with Mr. Washington. I'd probably have to say, in terms of what we handed out, we're probably in the 40 to 50
Okay.
Chromebooks / iPads.
And they're able to use it? They've had help adjusting to the technology?
So it came set up. They're given technology that they're familiar with using. The reason I say iPad or Chromebook, it depends on what class they're coming from. Some of the primary environments are more traditional and comfortable using iPads, and that's the way they facilitate their remote instruction. The majority of the elementary and middle school students, they receive Chromebooks if needed to support their learning.
Okay, and are free and reduced lunch students, are they being taken care of?
Yes, they are. Yep. If they reached out to us, we are providing them lunches.
If they reached out?
Yep. Not all free and reduced students and their families needed lunches. So we have a decent amount that have reached out. Like I said, we touch base with each family, and it ebbs and flows. Some will receive lunches and have chosen not to anymore because they don't need them anymore, and we've added names to the list as well. It's a dynamic.
So you're saying it's the obligation of the family to reach out to you? Did anything get sent out, like a letter saying, if you need it, contact us? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
What I meant by that is we didn't assume that everyone that was free and reduced needed lunch. We reached out, and then when they replied, we then supported them with what they needed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Dr. Lehman, may I add to that?
Sure.
The district's not required to provide free and reduced lunches. However, we have been, even before the state came out and said they were going to reimburse the cost of the meals. To go even further than that, we delivered them. And when the district was closed over spring break, a notification went from our food service director to any families that said, even though free and reduced lunches aren't available when school districts are closed during that spring break week, that school administration would pitch in if anybody needed a meal voucher, and we would have sent them to their homes. So, you know, we are very sensitive to the free and reduced lunch population, and we're doing a very admirable job taking care of that population.
Thank you for that information.
Can I add one more thing? Regarding technology, we also supported families, if needed, in acquiring internet. So we provided them with resources to local cable companies or on how to connect. So if they had the device and they didn't have internet, that would have been an issue. So
right.
If they communicated they had struggles with internet, we provided them with resources that we were provided, just on how to connect with a couple cable companies, or simply just figure out where the free Wi-Fi areas are, where they live, and connect them with internet.
Okay, so as far as you can tell, the majority of people in those circumstances are up and running and their students are being served through the technology?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rybick. Thank you, Mr. Lehman.
Any other board member question for Dr. Lehman? Okay, now we can move on to Superintendent's report. Dr. Alvick.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm not going to reiterate what Dr. Lehman said. We've been working really hard for the last 6 weeks with remote learning. I am sending an update to all of our families every Friday with any updated information. I also include that information on our district website. It goes out on our social media, and I send it to the township, who also sends it out through their township update every Friday. So just so you know, we're trying to get that information out as much as possible, so it is available to everyone.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So in last week's update, I did send out some information from the high school from Dr. Higgins. He's been communicating with his the parents of the seniors. We all know, and we're all very sad about the senior year that these students are having, and we want to do as much as we can for them. So they are working on alternate plans for everything from award night, senior awards, doing something for the sports teams that aren't having their season, even though their coaches are still working with all of their athletes virtually, and looking at, we did pick an alternate date for graduation and for the senior prom. Hopefully we will be able to hold those. If not, then we'll have to go to plan C. So that information is continually being shared out. We're all, Dr. Lehman and I also had discussions with the principals of the 5th grade and principals of the 8th grade. So we are in discussions about how we can support those students for their end of year activities if we don't go back. As of right now, Governor Murphy has said May 15th. I know I mentioned that earlier. I don't know what that's going to look like when he makes the change. I did listen to his press conference today, and it sounds like there's a lot of things that have to be in place before we can go back to school. We are working as an administrative team on looking at what those re-entry requirements would be if our schools were opened again. So that is something that we are looking at. Again, I'm working with the county superintendents and the county superintendent, Middlesex County Superintendent, trying to get as much information from the Department of Education that we can on what we would have to do. So that's an ongoing process that we are continuing to do. I just want to take a minute and just thank everyone that has been working in this environment. This is something that none of us expected. Definitely, I didn't expect it on my first year as a superintendent, but our administrators, our staff, our students, our parents, our paraprofessionals, our security guards, the lunch personnel, everyone is doing a fantastic job to support our students. And I encourage anyone to, take a look at some of the social media pages. Our teachers are tweeting about some of the activities that they're doing. It really is amazing what they're doing for our students. If anyone has concerns or questions about any of the curriculum content, please feel free to reach out. We are responding to anyone who reaches out to us. Reach out to your child's teacher, your principal, Dr. Lehman, myself, and we will answer any questions about anything that we're doing. So please continue to do that, okay? So with that.
Mr. President, may I ask a question to Dory? Thank you. Dory, a couple of questions. Looks like all the instructional guidance in terms of the remote learning is coming from the state and the county administration. Is that correct?
Instructional guidance, yes.
Okay. Are you expecting any instructional guidance for the board members?
No, but if you wanted to offer some suggestions, I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, there was a comment made that we haven't had much discussion in the board meeting about the remote instructions. So I'm just wondering if there's an expectation that I'm not aware of that we should be feeding into the.
Mr. Poy, let me just interrupt this for a second, because I said we don't administer the schools, which is absolutely correct. We don't do that. I also said Dr. Alvik has been updating the public weekly and as well as the board with what's going on, and she certainly avails herself to any questions. So I don't think we need to continue that. I'd like her to.
No, Steve, no. If there is a need that there's some expectation that we need to fulfill, I would like to know that. The second point that I have is I got a few letters, few emails from parents, specifically in the middle school, that I think, first of all, I think like everybody said, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, all the teachers, administrators, everybody, all the staff members. And I see, as a matter of fact, I was going to say that they're actually painting the parking lot the other day as soon as they get a chance to do some improvement. So we thank you for that. But apparently, there's not too much of interaction between the teacher and the students in the middle school. The comment was specifically, wouldn't it be better if the teacher uses either Zoom or Google on class to kind of have a video interaction with the students, because students may feel better actually seeing their teachers from time to time? Can you comment on that so that I can forward that comment to you that you can look into it? But can you address that question, please?
Yep. And again, if any parent has any questions or concerns, they absolutely should reach out to their child's teacher, to the administration, to the building administration, and then ultimately they can reach out to Dr. Lehman and myself. Remember, all of our teachers did this in about 3 days and went up to the virtual remote learning in about 3 days. Our teachers, just like our students and like ourselves, are all at different levels with technology. So what we are doing is providing a lot of professional development. So, teachers are expected to be interacting with students, whether it's through any of those Google Meet type things or through Schoology, through their websites, however they're interacting with students through email. And then in the afternoons, we're actually offering professional development. So we will be continuing to do that to make sure that we're getting our teachers up to par. Because again, some teachers weren't familiar with some of those things, and we're trying to do what we can. So if anyone has a question, they should reach out.
I guess the ask, maybe simply putting it, is that as much of interaction of seeing the people, the teachers would be much beneficial to the kids' psychological development and not feeling sort of isolated. I guess that's what the point is. Thank you very much.
Agreed.
Mr. Ryback? Yes.
You know, is it possible if we let Dr. Alvick complete her report?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize she wasn't finished.
I'll open it
Yes.
up for questions.
Well, I was going to the personnel agenda items, so if there's any
Okay,
other
but
questions.
when you're done, I'll ask the board if they have any questions.
All right, so it's recommended for the board to approve the attached personnel items A through S as in Sam.
So moved.
Second it.
Any questions?
Yes.
Concerns?
Mr. Fleury, who seconded?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryback? Just a quick question for Dr. Alvick. Yes, I too have received inquiries from people in the community. And so is there a set number of hours that the teachers are actually in front of the classroom, or is it by student? Like how is that working? And they're only
There's not been a specific requirement given to our staff, because just as we expect them in a regular classroom, we expect them to teach their students in their class, and every class is unique. So there is not a set number of required. They are required to be available to their students for a certain number of hours a day. But no, there has not been that, but we do it because every class is different.
So a lesson isn't getting taught remotely, they're just giving out, how are they giving out instruction? In other words, sometimes, I get remote learning, although I'm not, I don't do that on a regular level. But if classroom learning clearly is interaction between the teachers and the other students and the class, in the classroom. So is that occurring at all in most of the classes?
Yes.
So is there actually instruction going on verbally and visually, or is it they're just sending out, this is your project, this is the package? Like
there obviously is some where they're sending out packages. I'm not saying all of teachers, but teachers are doing video lessons. So they're creating a video and sending the video out to students.
Okay.
Some of them are finding a video and sending a video out. So because why reinvent the wheel sometimes? So finding a video and sharing that information with students. Some of them are actually meeting with students virtually. So it really depends on the classroom.
So if a child is struggling with a lesson, how does that work with the teacher?
They should reach out to the teacher directly, and the teacher can connect with them.
They should reach out to the teacher. The teacher doesn't like dial in each student on a regular basis and say, how are you doing? Are they getting the projects back? Are they getting the lessons back to review? Are the teachers correct?
Giving feedback, yes. They have been directed. They have to give feedback on any assignments that they're giving, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Ryback?
Sure, Ms. Chiarelli, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to just a couple things that I was worried about, but I could tell you, the interaction that my kids have with their teachers has really been excellent. I mean, there have been struggles, but I think the struggles have been more on our end than on our teachers' end. But I can tell you that the teachers have been available around the clock. I mean, we're getting emails on weekends, nights. They're following up. They have different meetings where some are interactive, or classrooms where some are interactive, and they get some lessons to do on their own, and things like that. My worry, though, and it might be unfounded, is just what are we doing, from our teachers from the standpoint of supporting them? Because what I'm seeing is they're there around the clock for the kids, but they in a lot of cases they have their own kids that they're also trying to mentor, who are maybe going to other schools, maybe not in Monroe. And so they have a heavy workload.
Agreed. And that's definitely been some of our focus has been on, that's why we kind of condensed the day to 4 hours. That way we're able to give them some professional development and some time to connect with their colleagues virtually, obviously. to work together. So that was part of the reason for going to the 4-hour session day, was exactly that. We found the first couple of weeks, we were all working pretty much around the clock. And we all had to kind of take a step back because it just wasn't something that we were going to be able to continue to do.
Okay, any other board member? Okay, I guess we have a roll call vote on personnel.
Personnel A through S.
A through F.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz, Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Tefano,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes,
Mr. Board President, personnel items A through S has passed unanimously.
thank you.
Okay, and then it is recommended that the board approve board action items A through F as in Frank.
So moved.
Moved.
Oh, second.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Just that the motion was made by Mr. Chiarella and seconded by Kathy Koloponowicz. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Or the other way.
I just have one question. For instance, D, the Center for Life Learning, are the students that we're paying per diem charges for, or any of the homeschooling instruction, are teachers still going to the homes?
Teachers are doing virtual home instruction for any students that are home instruction, but the one that you just mentioned there is actually an out-of-district placement. So those out-of-district schools are also doing virtual learning with their students.
Okay, so we're still paying for all that. Okay, thank you.
Any other question? We can have the roll call vote.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Tefano,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
Yes.
and Mr. Ryback.
Yes,
Mr. Board President, board action items A through F has passed unanimously.
thank you,
And
Dr.
Mr.
Alvin.
Ryback, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we can move to business administrator's report. Mr.
Yeah,
Gorski?
Mr. President, may I ask a quick question to Dory? I promise it's very quick. Dory, prior to the COVID-19 coming full swing, there was some discussion about the states allocating some funding for costs associated specifically with COVID-19 teaching. Are we keeping track of any additional expenses we're incurring because of COVID-19 in case some funds become available so that we can apply for those loans?
Yes, we are. Mr. Gorski's office is keeping track of all of that.
Okay, is that it, Mr. Pelori?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We can move on. Mr. Gorski?
Yes, sir.
Ready for
Mr.
yours.
Board, Mr. Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through H be approved by consent roll call.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella moved it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tefano.
Mr. Tufano, second. Okay, any questions, comments? And we can vote. Mr. Gorski, roll call vote.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo, Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
Yes.
Mr. Tefano,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
and Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion, board action items A through H is passed unanimously. That concludes my report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. There's two items I want to deal with today. First one really is, glad to say a lighter topic, but yet a serious one because I'm seriously thanking a lot of people. We'll start with Dr. Alvik. Dr. Alvik, we can't thank you enough. I mentioned this earlier, and it's worth mentioning again, for all the work and leadership you've shown, especially your first year as superintendent. You walked into a war zone with this coronavirus, and I think you're winning, certainly in this district. And thank you for all the work and certainly for your knowledge on curriculum. It's been outstanding. You've gone through it. I'm sure you've answered a lot of questions, and certainly your weekly updates show your good intentions to update the community and the board as well. And it's chock full of good information, and I know everyone appreciates it. Thank you. I would also like to thank Dr. Lehman and all the administrators, principals, assistant principals, and supervisors and professional development staff for providing guidance and training on all the new requirements with remote learning, supporting all students and staff and parents. I'd like to thank Mr. Gorski and the business office, continuing to run the business side, including payroll, accounts, payable, and all other business. Certificated staff, paraprofessionals, providing lessons and support for all students. Nancy Mitrosak and her staff for providing lunches. Jerry Tague and his custodial staff for cleaning buildings, continuation of projects. Pete Piero and his staff for outreach to families, delivering lunches. The Township OEM delivered lunches, for the first 3 weeks. Mrs. Ruella and her staff, including related services providers, for continuing with central registration and supporting all related services for our special education students. Mrs. Christie and her staff, continuing with the hiring process for new staff members and managing all staffing requests. All of the secretaries within our district for continuing all business required. By the way, this past Wednesday was Administrative Professional Day. Congratulations to all the administrators. Now we'll move on to a little bit more serious topic, and then we've touched on it before, and that's a bill number 3902. This bill would allow townships to delay payments to school districts, which would put us in a horrible financial position. And what I think people have to hear is, although we're addressing 3902, I want to talk for a second about the law, which is A 3904. Not A, just it's a law, 3904. This is a bill that requires school district to pay its personnel. Well, if we're not getting our money from the town, how are we going to pay our personnel? So you could conceivably have two laws here that are in conflict with each other. So that's a key reason, of course, to oppose 3902. We just can't afford to do without that money. Mr. Pelori is absolutely correct. I wrote, as an individual, all our legislators, and I heard back from them that they have not put 3902 on before the Senate for a vote yet. They are working on amending it, and I think they will come up with something. But until they do, I think we have to stand firm and object to this bill. So that being said, I'd like to read the following resolution. Whereas Assembly Bill 3902, currently pending in the state legislature, would authorize the Department of Community Affairs to permit municipalities to delay the transmission of property tax revenues to school districts during gubernatorial declared emergencies. And whereas New Jersey's public schools are highly dependent on property tax revenue to support education programs, and whereas on average, local property taxes constitute close to 60% of the public school revenue, with the percentage even greater in a significant number of districts. And whereas a delay in payment from municipalities would result in a financial crisis for school districts, seriously disrupting the educational process and bringing it to a halt. And whereas although public school buildings are closed during the current health emergency, the education of our students is taking place through remote learning and home instruction. And whereas continued timely transmission of school property taxes is critical for the education process to continue without interruption. And whereas even though municipalities are designated as the authorities to collect property taxes, these taxes are levied for specific purposes. For example, municipal, school, county, fire district, and these obligations must continue to be met. And whereas is currently written, A 3902, which is intended to ease a financial burden on municipalities, would place a severe strain on school districts and the students and families that they serve. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education recognizes the impact of the current public health emergency on the state and local governments, as well as local school districts, but believes this legislation would worsen the situation for our communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Monroe Township Board of Education urges the state senate and governor to oppose A 3902, and be it further resolved that this resolution be delivered to Governor Phil Murphy, State Senate President Stephen M. Sweeney, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, and the 14th Legislative District's representatives in the state, in the Senate and General Assembly. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to the New Jersey School Boards Association.
Second that.
Okay. Any question?
Yeah, Steve, I have a question. I think I just heard you say that, that we oppose, and we're suggesting to the Senate and the governor to oppose A 3902.
Yes.
Now, if the version of the bill changes in the content and the bill number stays as is, can we associate a resolution to a bill number rather than the content of the bill, if you know what I mean?
I don't have any problem. I think we should wait and see what happens, Andy. I know there were, as you said, and we all know that they're working on something, how they may change the bill number. I don't know. We have to wait and see what happens, but they certainly know how we feel.
Yeah, they may. My concern is that they may keep the bill number as is and have a completely different legislation written under it. So I think we need to focus on the legislation rather than on the bill number itself in when we oppose. At least that's my feeling.
Okay. We'll see what comes out of it. Anybody else?
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Okay, so are you implying we're going to wait to see if it goes through the Senate?
No, I think that we have to send this out as written.
Immediately, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't think we should sit and wait and see what they do. I think they have to know how we feel on the current bill.
I mean, I think you can add to that resolution if you're willing to, as of the date it was passed, without the amendments. I mean, to Mr. Pelori's concerns, if we pass a resolution and correct, like as of today or as of the date it was passed, and if we get amendments, we could always rescind our resolution.
Well, it's dated April 27th, and on April 27th, that's the way the bill reads. So
okay.
Obviously, if we pass this, it would be concerning the bill effective as of April 27th.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Gorski, we can have a roll call vote.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mrs. Volponowicz,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Tefano,
Yes.
and Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, your motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Okay, we can move to other Board of Education business.
Mr. Ryback, I have something that I'd like to
Okay.
share.
Siegel?
First, I just want to reiterate what you said, thanking Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, Mr. Gorski, and their teams for leading us through these uncharted waters. It's an amazing job that you and your teams are doing. It's just phenomenal. So I just wanted to commend you for your efforts. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, while many are out there dealing with the consequences of the pandemic, I know the hearts of many are breaking since March 13th for all the kids of Monroe, but especially for the senior class of 2020. They're an amazing bunch of students who were ready to start the fun part of senior year. There are students who have missed so many of their spring traditions, such as the high school play, competitions, etc. The list will go on and on. In talking with many parents, teachers, students, and community members, most remember their senior years and feel terrible for the kids. There have been many well-intentioned ideas in the town to celebrate the senior class, but I wanted to open a discussion with my fellow board members on coming up with a permanent solution to commemorate the class of 2020 in the high school. We We've never experienced something like this before, and I thought it would be nice for the seniors to be remembered by future classes and generations. It would also be nice for the seniors to see something in the high school to represent their class if they come back one day and walk the halls with their own children and families.
Nice idea. Okay, any board member have a question or may want to add a comment to that? Have any ideas?
Yeah, Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Exactly. I know that we've seen a lot of things on social media, not just in Monroe, but across the United States about how this is impacting the senior class of 2020 and how other people are handling. There's been such things as people putting their pictures around town and banners around town, and I inquired about putting the senior names on the sign in front of the high school, and I know that it takes a lot of that we might have too many names to put on a sign. And I know I was thinking of maybe doing a time capsule or something like that, but I believe one of the clubs might be doing a time capsule because I thought that was a great idea. The other thing that I know that I was thinking of is putting a plaque at the high school, just commemorating the class of 2020, someplace where either you walk in the door or someplace where the students will see that all the time. So I don't know if anybody else would have any other kind of suggestions for a permanent. We could also like plant a tree or something for the class of 2020. A garden or something like that.
It's a nice idea. I think it's a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Siegel and Mr. Kalapanovich. I think those are good ideas to do something special for these students that are graduating, and as of now, their graduation as we know it, their prom as we know it is who knows what it's going to look like. So I think it'd be great for us to do something for them. I absolutely would support it. Does any other board member want to chime in on this?
I would like to say something. I think that we absolutely need to find some kind of solution to celebrate this great occasion for these students. It's definitely necessary, and a lot of parents have looked forward to this for 12 years, and it'd be horrific if they get disappointed. So I'd like to try and find out from the governor's office or somebody if we can do. Even if we do something with immediate family in the parking lot where, students are 10 feet apart in masks and diplomas are handed them with rubber gloves. I mean, if it's done adhering to all the rules, I don't see a reason why we can't pull something like that off.
That sounds like a graduation idea. And I'm not saying it's bad, but what they're doing, what they're asking for is something in addition to that, because I know Dr. Alvik and is thinking of ways for graduation and what it's going to look like. So this is in addition to.
Mr. Gorski, can I ask Mr. Gorski a question?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
If we put a plaque in the high school, how much would something like that cost?
It would be.
Finances are kind of tight now that with our budget, and we're looking at next year. So if we wanted to put a permanent something like a plaque in, how much would that cost the board?
Remembering that the design of the plaque when we opened the high school, you were talking about maybe $1,000, $2,000 at most, but you could certainly go something a little smaller, just commemorating a class, because that was a more grand plaque at the time. It would not be difficult to find surplus funds to transfer to cover the cost of any kind of plaque that the board desires to create.
Would we, Mr. Gorski, have to pass a resolution authorizing you to spend up to a certain amount on a plaque, or I don't know, we need a resolution for that?
I certainly would recommend it. I could recommend a resolution to the board now as such, if you wish. Because the nice thing about doing a resolution is it will always be memorialized in the minutes that this Board of Education did something special acknowledging this class that was impaired from so many things that Mrs. Siegel talked about.
Okay.
So if you wish, I could do a resolution for the board now in this spirit.
Okay,
Mr. Rybick?
let's do it.
Mr. Rybick?
Oh, yeah, so many, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I just started. How about it's like a memorialization, but the students are really good at videotaping themselves and everything. If we can do a montage of all their videos and keep it as an archive.
That might be a great idea also. We could,
Yeah,
we could probably do both of those because that sounds like it's a no-brainer. When
have the students, I mean, it may be a long one and I don't know what the time frame or the manpower would need, but if kids can post their video, like post it, I mean, there would have to be parameters and things like that.
I think it would be similar to, excuse me.
Mr. Ryback? Mr. Ryback?
Oh, yeah.
The high school administration is already working on something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Mrs. Armijo.
If no one else has any ideas, why don't we ask
Mr. Ryback?
Yes, Mr. Pelori? Yeah.
Andy Pelori, thank you very much. I think the entire board, I can see the passion of that we want to do something, and I completely agree with that. One of the things that's also a common theme that the entire board agrees is the work that our administration, teachers, and support staff is doing for this district as well. This, as Mike said, the plaque is going to be about $1,100 to $1,200 approximately. Does it have to come from the general fund? Can we have some of us contribute? Maybe somebody sponsors it instead of taking anything. I know $1,000 is not much, but show our appreciation for everybody who's doing it and combining both of them. So I'm kind of getting two ideas in one thought here. One is, can we contribute to it? Number two is that can we combine the teachers and the administration and the other staff in the same thing? Because I don't think in our lifetime, knock on wood, we'll ever see something like this again. So I think it's a time capsule. Yeah, it's a time capsule, but we need to recognize not just the students, but also the teachers.
I know that sounds like it might be a legal question. I don't know, Mr. Gorski, if you might know the answer to that.
Well, certainly additional funds could come from various sources to supplement the board funds if you wish to pass a resolution as such tonight. So you could go, even grander with the plaque if you wish.
Okay. So why don't we propose a resolution now? Do you have one that you can?
Yes, and feel free if any members wish to contribute to it. It's just first draft here. But it is recommended to the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education to authorize the appropriation of general fund budget surplus not to exceed $2,500 to commemorate the sacrifice and spirit of the class of 2020 with a plaque to be affixed at the Monroe Township High School to acknowledge their enduring spirit during the COVID-19 crisis.
Thank you. So moved.
Okay.
So this is Michelle. That sounds like that was already pre-planned. Somebody.
I assure you, I just made that up. I could show you the piece of paper I just wrote it on.
For 2,500. I thought we were talking about. Okay. Not to be.
I'm with you, Michelle. I thought the number went double very quickly.
Not to
between 1,000 and 2,000. So he just added,
Not
not
to exceed.
mention for it.
the floor.
Sure. So many of you want to say?
I thought I was speaking. Okay, so not to be cheap, but just to be inclusive, and if and when we go back, I mean, I don't know if we want to do this before or for the end of the year, but does the can the shop do metal work or something like that to be given for the class? I mean, I'm sure there's seniors in the shop that might want to actually participate.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay, so I'd like just that to be in somebody's back.
Albert, you.
Yeah, I'll keep that in my notes from the meeting, but obviously it depends on whether we get back or not.
Of course. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I guess we could vote on it.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Tefano,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel, Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
and Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion passes unanimously.
It's Mr.
I beg your pardon, Mr. I was thinking about Mrs. Siegel, who moved the motion, is not recognized in here anywhere, but
Hey,
sorry about
we could use a little lighter moment every time. It's all right.
that.
Any other board member for other board business? Okay, we can move on to the public forum. This will be on any topic. Members of the public, you have 4 minutes. Please state your name and address. Mr. Gorski, I can't hear you.
There's nothing.
Bear with us as we're selecting someone from the queue.
Okay.
Mr. Board President, you have Chrissy Skirby.
Okay, Ms. Skirby?
Hi, I was lowering my hand, but that's okay. I can, I'll give a few comments. Yes, Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. I just want to reiterate my comments before. I was not intending to say that the administration of schools, Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, the principals, were doing anything other than the best job possible. My comments were not directed toward them. And I'd just like to say that as a parent of a high school senior, it is very upsetting everything that has gone on. And I do appreciate that the board would look to do something. I do know that Dr. Higgins has sent out several communications to the senior parents, to the high school. And I know that the administrators there, Dr. Alvick, are looking at doing everything possible for the senior class. I know that our baseball team made a fantastic video with the coaches got together and did something special with the team. I think some of the other sports did as well. Maybe that stuff can be highlighted on the website as well. I do like the idea of signs somewhere around town or names on the district sign as you drive by to see that. I'd be a little, I don't know, as a parent, as a senior going through this, I'm not sure how much a plaque will really mean to any of them. Maybe it'll make you guys feel good that you did something, but I know I graduated high school and I've never been to high school, so any plaque that they would have put up to commemorate it wouldn't do anything for me. Maybe it would do something for, you know, the school, but that's not something directly toward the seniors. So maybe you can come up with a good idea that actually does something to recognize the actual children. And again, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Alvick and her staff. I know I have a kindergartner. We have online, Mrs. Shea has been an absolute fantastic with the kindergartner class. She comes online every single day with them. I can't give enough kudos to what's going on at Oak Tree. They read, a teacher comes on every night and reads a different bedtime story to the children. It's just, it's really, they have tried to stay so connected with the kids. So I just give our staff, you know, great kudos throughout the district. I think they're all trying really hard to navigate through this. And something to remember too is these teachers also have children. So not only are they trying to teach, they also have their children at home that they have to teach as well. So I think, you know, people are sending emails to board members. Really, you should be directing that to the administration. And just keep in mind that our teachers are doing the best they can, and they are thrown into this just like we are. And I can't imagine what they're going through and their struggles of their day. And I just think that we need to be positive and really understand, you know, what they're going through too. It's everybody. I mean, this is unprecedented. So that's it. Those are my comments.
Okay. Mr. Washington, do you have anybody else?
Mr. Board President, you have Katie Belko.
Okay. Welcome, Katie.
Bear with us a second.
Sure.
She muted herself. Mr. Board President, you have Ajit CD.
Okay.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you. Welcome.
All right, thanks so much and appreciate, Superintendent Olvich and all the effort, staff. What I wanted to check was, is the school equipped to accept any sort of monetary, help, of any sort, so that we can probably facilitate that for the school, right now?
Mr. Gorski or Dr. Alvick?
Certainly, if any donor wanted to consider a donation to the school district, I asked you just send the proposal to the superintendent's office. It would have to be formally adopted and recognized and accepted by the Board of Education at a public meeting. If it merits that from administration first.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, you have Michael Oleski.
Okay. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Steve. Good evening, everybody. Just got a couple of comments I just wanted to mention. One going back, not at great length, but to the truck ban from the roads that adjoin Cranberry. Just want to let you know that back the end of last year, when I first read about the ban being recommended by the township, and I guess the comment came afterwards that it was approved by the county. I did actually write a note back to the township, and in fact, it was posted for a few days. And this was the county memorandum or letter. And that letter actually did not say that they approved of the ban. They basically didn't take an exception to the ban. I'm not sure if anyone else has seen anything else in writing, but I remember reading that very clearly, and it was that letter that was sent with the, maybe resolution from Mayor Tamburo onto the state. But as I read over that letter a couple of times, in no way or fashion did they actually approve of the ban, from the Middlesex County standpoint. And the other comment I just wanted to make, I guess, with regard to the referendum, discussions coming up probably in the next 1 to 2 months. We probably got the BG&T meeting next month.
May, it'll be in May. Yeah.
Yep, and of course the Board of Education meeting. And I just want to ask that any of the items or documents that are going to be referred to in those meetings, that they get posted at least a couple of days in advance, so that, of course, not only you folks can read them, but so can we from the public, and then be able to offer, well thought out comments on those documents. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, you have Katie Belko.
Hello, Katie.
Okay, we'll skip Katie and try Ajit Sethi.
Okay.
Well, I thought I already asked my question or made that comment about monetary support from the general public.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Lower my hand.
Thank you. Mr. Board President, you have Sarah Aziz.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah Aziz, 3 Lancelot Drive.
I just wanted to thank the staff that's doing such a great job with my children during this remote learning experience. Specifically, I wanted to thank Ms. Carissa Olardi and Mr. Michael Sobieski and Malik, who work with my third grader. I also wanted to thank the special education staff at the middle school that work with my daughter, which includes Ms. Scacera, Ms. Campbell, and Ms. Serrano. Nonetheless, I am concerned about the possibility of regression because I just don't feel like I can do as good a job as at home with my kids as their professional educators can do in the classroom. And I wanted to know if the district had any ideas of what they might do to assess regression in the students when the schools do reopen, to get them back on track and to make sure that they were, that they managed to mostly stay on track during the closures.
Is it Dr. Alvick or Dr. Lehman? Which one?
So yes, that is definitely a part of our discussions as we are considering, when we're going to return to school, is definitely looking at possible things like an enrichment period where we can give students some extra help on things that they were missing. We also, Dr. Lehman, worked very closely with the content supervisors to make sure that we are hitting kind of readjusting our scope and sequence based on the remote learning. So it's definitely something that's in our discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, we're going to try Katie Belko once more.
Okay.
Katie did text she's having some challenges with her microphone.
Isn't there a way for her to type her question into the screen?
Yes, sir, she could.
Okay, I was just checking.
Might be a good idea if she's having troubles with the microphone.
Mr. Board President, she typed a comment. She wants to know why there are two postnatal policies, one for certificated staff and one for non-certificated.
Dr. Alvick, you want to take that?
Yeah, just so you know that every one of our policies is in two different sections of our policy manual. And I don't remember whether it's the 4,000 or the 3,000. One of them is for certificated staff, one is for non-certificated staff, and we have to do that to make sure that we're having those parallel policies for all of the staff in our district. Not sure if that answered the question, but.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else, Mr. Washington?
Mr. Board President, there are no other hands raised.
Thank you. Thank you for helping too, Mr. Washington. Okay, now we can move on to closed session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 to 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: harassment, intimidation, bullying, discussion regarding the MTA negotiations, discussion regarding the MTSAA negotiations. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. I'll assume we're going to need about 45 minutes, to be honest, for this. A half hour, 45 minutes most.
So moved.
I have a second.
I'll second.
I heard Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Board President, if I may ask Reggie Washington about the process that we need to follow so that we're all consistent.
I can tell you, he sent
Okay.
that something.
Michael Oleski
has left the
Hold on one
meeting.
second. Well, just don't go out of this. Leave this alone. And Mr. Washington's going to cut off our microphones so we can't be heard, and then we're going to phone in and have a phone conference. You should have received all the numbers. He sent everybody the numbers. And I know, Dr. Alvick, you wanted to include somebody. I think you forgot somebody. Am I right?
Yeah, we want to make sure we include the technology staff and involved in all of helping all of our teachers as a thank you. Absolutely. They've been working definitely overtime with all of the technology.
Okay.
So we're supposed to turn on videos and our microphones and then call the number.
Don't exit the meeting.
Right.
Washington's going to turn off. You can turn off. He's going to turn off your microphones, and then we have the phone numbers to call for that telephone conference. Okay. Did we vote to go to closed session?
No.
I don't think we voted. Mr. Gorski, could we? I'm just taking it. All those in favor? Okay. I don't think we have any. All right. Motion passes. All right. Let's go to closed session.
Turn off your mic.
I'm gonna do it.
I just had some.
Dinner. Michelle, I love that picture, by the way the house reflects off the water behind you.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. It's so cool.
Was given to me on 9/11,
Oh, wow.
2001. It was my birthday present.
Yes, I'll take a roll call.
Where's Jill? Is Jill here?
I'm here.
Okay, just checking.
You look very studious with those glasses.
Thank you.
Peter.
Hey, wait a minute. I got glasses too. Hold on.
Yeah, but you don't look as good.
All right.
There's Jill. Looks like a judge.
Let me take a roll call. Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Here.
Mrs. DeMeo.
Here.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Here.
Mr. Nikitinsky.
Here.
Pelori.
I'm here.
Mr. Ryback.
Here.
Mrs. Siegel.
Here.
And Mr. Tefano.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rutsky.
Here.
Mr. Board President, all the members have returned.
Okay, thank you. We can move to the public forum. I don't know if anyone is there to ask questions. Washington, is anyone waiting for?
Hello, Mr. Board President. I see one hand raised, and we will recognize Katie Belko.
Me again. But I think I forgot to lower my hands. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I finally fixed it. Okay.
This, let me just say, this is Steve Ryback. This is the public forum for the closed session, which we can't comment on because it's all personnel items. It's, privileged items. But I think you've been waiting to speak on the previous one. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had a question. You answered my question about the policy for the postnatal. I just had a question from the curriculum team about the education for the high school reading program 1 and 2. I was just wondering, I know that I was from looking at the notes, it was passed in the curriculum committee, but I don't see anywhere where it was actually brought to the full board and passed through the full board. And if it has, my apologies, and we can say goodnight, and that would be it. But
It
if
was
someone could
passed.
answer that.
So it's passed, it's in play. The teachers are also still collaborating with the same team that wrote it, but it's in action.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
You guys have a
Okay, so we can close the public forum. The next scheduled Board of Education meeting is 11.
Hello. Uh-oh. Hello, anyone can hear me?
Is that Prakash? It sounds
Yeah. Steve, I have been calling for last two public forum, and I've been raising hand, and they're not calling me.
I'm sorry. All right, well, Prakash, what's your question? I was going to close.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I apologize. I get upset because I was waiting. Thanks. First of all, thank you all. I saw you all cheerful coming back. Very nice. Thank you. The first thing is about the policy regarding the participation by the public. Please soften it and make it respectful. That is my request. And another one thing is, I will be fully supporting whatever the bill 83902. I think we will support that. I think this is very good. Anything payments, not coming to our teachers and education is not good. So, Steve, if possible, send me personally that bill because I typed in 83902. No, I got the bill. Sorry, I got the bill. I will support that.
Prakash, it's 9302.
I got it. 9302. I will go.
Wait,
Yeah.
there's no 8 in there. Oh,
No, 3902.
2902. Andy, what is 2902?
No, 3902.
Okay. I'll read it and I'm in full support of it. I have one question. I looked at the projections and what I see is for the high school projections in 2025, we see 1,160 unhoused students in high school. So my question is, I saw the very little about the three proposals for referendum. Only my request is, or I can ask question now, only 10 classrooms, that is 6 regular classrooms and 4 SGI classrooms are proposed currently in the referendum. I would like to ask, is it sufficient? We are going to have 1,160 unhoused students. So can anyone answer me that will satisfy in the current referendum proposal?
Prakash, we have to wait until the administration comes up with their, recommendation. There is no real proposal yet. There are a couple ideas, but the administration is going to come up with their ideas and recommend one. And I think you should hold your questions until we see what they recommend.
Yeah, then I request, I have a lot of requests to my respect to our administration. Please take that into consideration because I don't want to stand there and start opposing the referendum. I want
30 seconds.
Yeah, fully supporting. So please take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. The next scheduled Board of Education meeting is May 11th at 7 o'clock. I don't know if it'll be virtually or at the high school. We'll have to wait and see. I need a motion to adjourn.
Steve, it will be virtual because we're not opening and we won't know about opening until May 15th.
Okay, I make a
It'll be a
motion.
virtual meeting.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a move? Someone move it in second.
Peter.
Move it. I'll move it.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.